All right, welcome to the Krug Show. We're getting it rolling after Super Bowl 59. We got a lot to get to. We're giving away a Ricky Pearsall jersey tonight. We're giving away a second jersey as well. We're also going to talk a lot about Super Bowl 59, which goes to the Philadelphia Eagles. We're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle. It's time to go right here, right now. Let's go. All right, welcome to the Krug Show after Super Bowl 59, brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville. They're in Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. We're also brought to you by Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California, along the Monterey Peninsula. My friend Anthony Catania is at 831-521-5264. And, of course, we are also brought to you by our good friends at Better. That's right. This live stream is sponsored by Better, the official daily fantasy sponsor of the Krug Show. Use Better to make daily fantasy lineups and win real money. Download the app below. Make sure you use the promo code Niners, and you'll get your first deposit matched up to $200. Everyone who does automatically is entered into the drawing to win tonight's Ricky Pearsall jersey, and we will announce that. Well, actually, we're going to announce it right now. The winner of the Ricky Pearsall jersey is...
Drum roll.
Drum roll. Do we have
We don't have a drum roll.
a sound? Do we have a soundboard with a drum roll? No. Anything close? Here. Wait. Here we go. Maybe we get. It's on a drum roll.
Okay.
There we go. Winner. All right, the winner is Kyle Humphrey. Kyle Humphrey, you have won the autographed Ricky Pearsall number 14 jersey. Kev, how does he claim his prize?
I will send you an email to the email that you signed up with for the Better account and send you your prize.
There you go. Kyle Humphrey, the winner of the Ricky Pearsall autographed jersey, signed by number 14 himself, Ricky Pearsall. It's a red 49er 14 Ricky Pearsall jersey signed by Ricky. And our second winner, who gets the backup jersey, is Robert Leva. That's right, Robert Leva. He wins the second jersey for second place. Robert Leva, Leiva.
Bonus
Robert
gift.
Leva. What's that?
The bonus gift.
The bonus gift. Robert Leva is victorious. Tonight was all Eagles. Oh, my goodness. Start to finish. It was 24-0 at half. It was 34-6 at the end of 3. It was 40-22 when it was all said and done. Credit Vic Fangio. He shut down Patrick Mahomes. He took away the Kansas City run game. Kareem Hunt was held to 9 yards on 3 carries. Isaiah Pacheco had 7 yards on 3 carries. The Chiefs could not run the ball at all in this game, and Patrick Mahomes was under the gun. He threw 2 interceptions. He was sacked 6 times. The Eagles' defensive front owned the day. Hurts did just enough, right? 17 of 22, 2 touchdowns. He had the 1 pick. He also ran 11 times for 72 yards and a touchdown. The Chiefs did a nice job against Saquon Barkley. They held him to 2.3 yards per carry, but the Chiefs could not do anything against the defensive front of the Philadelphia Eagles. Josh Sweat, 2.5 sacks. Milton Williams had 2 sacks. He's a free agent. Half sack for Jalix Hunt. 7 tackles for Zach Bond. Amazing. Milton Williams with a fumble recovery. Cooper DeJean and Zach Bond, 2 of the newest Eagles. DeJean, a draft pick out of Iowa, he had an interception, a pick 6. Zach Bond had an interception as well. And it was all Philadelphia Eagles. And how about this? This was, I think, the 5th time that that 2 coaches were meeting in the Super Bowl. And in the previous 4, the guy who had won the first go-round had won the second go-round. And so that boded well for Andy Reid. But that trend was bucked tonight because the Eagles win big. and Nick Sirianni gets the Super Bowl win over Andy Reid. And you know what? All I'll say, guys, and I want to hear what you guys have to say, but all I'll say about this is that, you know what? In the NFL, it looks like, sometimes it can look like you're not falling behind because your record's good and you're winning games. But this Chiefs team was limping towards the finish line. They were not dominating teams. They were not running the ball. They were not dominating teams the way they had in the past. But it was just enough Reed, just enough Mahomes, just enough to get it done. And they ran into a deeper, better football team, and they just got outplayed. So that was my takeaway. It's really, really, really hard to win 3 in a row. I can remember 1990 so clearly when the Niners lost to the New York Giants in the NFC Championship game, and they were going, if they had won that game, they were going for the three-peat. So they were 1 win away from what Kansas City was trying to do tonight, and they couldn't get there. They could not get there. And were they the better team? Yeah, they probably were the better team against the New York Giants. But the Giants made the play, got to the Super Bowl, ultimately had a great game plan and pulled the upset of the Buffalo Bills and won the Super Bowl. But, just when you're on top, you think it's going to last forever. And when you're not on top, you think you're never going to get there. But in reality, it's shades of gray, the difference between winning and losing. It's very, very, very difficult to get on top. It's incredibly difficult to stay on top. The NFL has so many different mechanisms built in, from the draft to really everything about the sport. Waivers that are designed to drag the top teams down and push the better teams up. And it's just very, very difficult to do. I credit Andy Reid. I credit Brett Veach. I credit Patrick Mahomes for making a run at it. But that's why it has never been done, or it hasn't been done since 66, 67, 68. The Green Bay Packers won 3 titles in a row. Before Super Bowl I, and then they won Super Bowl I over Kansas City. Then they won Super Bowl II over the Raiders. And Vince Lombardi, the great Vince Lombardi, that was his final game ever. And, he retired about a month later. Will Reid do the same? Or will Reid try to hang around and pursue the Don Shula all-time wins record? That's left to be determined. But I think you could see Andy Reid step down at some point. You could see Travis Kelce call it quits. You could see Dave Taub and Spagnuolo start to say, hey, you know what? We're done. So it's very difficult to stay on top. The Chiefs had an amazing run, but the Eagles knocked them off their perch tonight, and it was dominating fashion. So a crushing loss for the Chiefs for sure. What did you guys think of the game? Who wants to go first?
I think you nailed it. Historically in the NFL, you don't win 3 straight, regardless of how good you are. And you also detail the fact that, the KC Chiefs this year were playing KC Chiefs football, but they were not dominating anybody. And best on best, when you look at the Eagles, it was almost like if the Eagles didn't win this year, it was because they were going to self-destruct. But internally, they did what they couldn't do of the previous years, and they held it together. And I got to give Jalen Hurts a lot of credit. Sirianni kind of took a step back, but Jalen Hurts is making a lot of people eat a lot of crow, because when they evaluate him, they look at him from a talent perspective, and he obviously has good talent. I mean, he's Brock Purdy-ish. That's Brock Purdy's comp, in my opinion. But from the neck up, Jalen Hurts is as good as anybody. And he has a defined skill among the best in the NFL. He throws the deep ball as well as anybody. And you know what? This was Patrick Mahomes' Tom Brady moment against the New York Giants. They took away his initial reads. They put a lot of pressure on him, and he got frazzled. He made some bad decisions, and they got dominated. I want to see if they can come back next year, but they got dominated tonight by a much better football team.
I like this outcome for a number of reasons. I think there's a lot of narratives that get shut down or brought up because of how this game ended. First, like you said, Dad, the Chiefs I don't know. I called them fraudulent in the beginning of the season, and I was wrong because they made the Super Bowl. But I still feel like there's a little bit of an element of fraudulentness, if that's a word, with their team. Like, there's just the way that they were winning was super ugly. I think I brought this up last time when they played the Bills, but before the Bills game, they hadn't scored 31 points in a game that season. And the only other teams that hadn't done that were the Raiders, like the Panthers, and like one other team that was just terrible. So it's like they were winning ugly. They were winning lucky. It felt like they were a lot of things were going their way. And I'm just glad that this Super Bowl, the way that they lost in this game kind of shows that, they weren't the best team. They weren't the best team in the league. And I don't think that they should have been, just on the way that they were playing, the way that everything was working for them. I'll credit the defense, though. Saquon Barkley had an incredible year, is an incredibly talented player, but the Chiefs shut him down. Like, he was a shell of himself in terms of his normal production. But in the end, I think this one has to fall on Mahomes. The offense, someone said in the beginning, I forget who said it, but someone said, oh, like the Chiefs offense was stagnant in the beginning. I feel like that's an understatement. If you go through their drives, they didn't have a significant drive until the third quarter of the game. Like, it was punt, interception, punt, interception. It's just nothing was going for the Chiefs. So I hate to be rooting for the Eagles as a Niners fan, but I was, because I just didn't want to see Mahomes do it again. And I think that, the right team won.
Danny, what'd you think?
Just utter domination by Philadelphia. They were totally prepared on both sides of the ball. Special teams. They just played like they were, going to dominate today. They knew they were the better team going into it. You could see it. They were not intimidated at all by KC. Vic Fangio had a great defensive scheme plan. He rushed forward, didn't even blitz today, and was able to get pressure. I think the lines of the Eagles, offensively and defensively, is the blueprint for going forward. If teams, they put the stat up that the offensive line of the Eagles average weight was 338 pounds, and in Super Bowl I, it was 245.
That was an amazing stat.
But you look at that 338, and it made me think of the Niners offensive line. Do they even average 300? I don't know. It's pretty close. And
yeah, there's no question. The Niners need to get bigger and more physical on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Eagles got it done with their front four. Their front four dominated Kansas City. I'll tell you, you know what? I'm not saying this because he's my buddy. I'm not saying this because I like the guy. Nick Allegretti was missed here. He signed with the Commanders in the offseason. The Commanders had a tremendous year. He's a really underrated offensive lineman, and he was the starting guard in the Super Bowl last year against the Niners. He graded out incredibly highly. He played very, very well, and then he departed in free agency for a little bit more money in Washington. And this is another area where it's like teams pick off your free agents, and they didn't replace him with as good a player as he was. He himself was a replacement for guys who were pretty good as well. So, I just think that, Philly's D-line beat a very good Kansas City offensive line, but it wasn't quite the same offensive line that it's been in previous years. But Philly's defensive line, Milton Williams, talk about a guy that maybe the Niners ought to try to pursue. Milton Williams, interior rusher, 4 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. He's really an incredible athlete out of Louisiana Tech, and just 300 pounds, very, very fast. I thought Williams had a huge impact up front. He was outstanding. So
I think another. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think another storyline from this, that we should take, and not just from the Niners perspective, but from the league at whole. Who were the Eagles last year? Last year, the Eagles were the laughing stock of the league in terms of the end of the season. Like, people were laughing at them saying, look how many games they've lost in a row. Jalen Hurts isn't the guy. What does Nick Sirianni do? This defense is a joke. Everyone was laughing at the Eagles like, this is a joke of a team right now. And what happened? They went into the draft. They got way better. They got young talent in the secondary. They beefed up their offensive line, they beefed up their defensive line, and they're back in the Super Bowl, and they just won the Super Bowl. So
they got
I
two new
think-
coordinators too. And they got
Vic Fangio,
a
and I
brand
think
new
that kinda-
defensive coordinator. They got a
that
brand new
translates-
offensive coordinator, and they got
that-
a coordinators with experience.
that translates to the Niners. I mean, if you look at the Niners position, they just got Robert Saleh and they got Gus Bradley. Like they just up their defensive line or the defensive coordinators. They can go in the draft and they can get better. Everyone thinks that they're farther away from, the Super Bowl win as they really are. And I think that kind of proves it right here.
I
think Philadelphia. Go ahead, Frank.
No, I'm just to jump on what he said about the Niners. I think the Niners were an aberration this year. They got better coaches this year. They need to improve their personnel, but their system is top notch, and I don't think there's any reason to think that they won't be very, very competitive next year. But with regards to Philly, you know what? I mean, I didn't realize Howie Roseman had been in Philly for 25 years.
I didn't either.
That dude is literally the Ozzie Newsome of his generation. He's put this Eagle team together multiple times. This is the second time he's done that. So I got to give that guy a lot of props, man, because he knows how to draft, he knows how to sign, and he knows how to build a football team. And that's part of the story also, even though he doesn't play. That's part of the story.
No, there's no doubt about that. I mean, Howie Roseman deserves a ton of credit. He chased off both the offensive and defensive coordinator. Their defense was a joke last year in the playoffs. Tampa owned them. They couldn't stop anybody, and they regrouped. They got a very good player in the draft in Quinyon Mitchell. He was a plug and play corner. They got Cooper DeJean in the draft. Their young defensive line, really came together. To me, I mean, Fangio was just a godsend. I mean, think about this. In 1 year, they added Vic Fangio, and then Jordan Davis, Milton Williams, Jalen Carter, all these guys were, first-round picks, second-round pick, third-round pick in the last couple of drafts. Nolan Smith, very young defensive line. He got that young defensive line to really play and play well, right? Then he picks up Zach Bond from New Orleans, and Zach Bond was just a guy. He wound up being a all-pro inside linebacker. Then they suffer an injury to Nakobe Dean. They plugged in Oren Burks, and he was their starter. Oren Burks got absolutely toasted last year in the Super Bowl when Greenlaw got hurt. It was like Oren Burks was just being picked on. He played well. Josh Sweat played well. They picked up C.J. Gardner-Johnson, so they added C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Quinyon Mitchell, and Cooper DeJean in the secondary. That's pretty damn good. And then they got their young front to come of age. Fangio was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And I'd love to know exactly. I know that the Eagles run a lot of coverages that Mahomes a lot of defensive coverages that they a lot of cover 4, a lot of cover 6. And I know Mahomes has struggled a lot with cover 4 and cover 6. I don't know what they did tonight because I didn't see the all 22 yet, but I would imagine it's a lot of cover 4 and a lot of cover 6. And Mahomes was just off. I mean, guys weren't open. The Eagles did an incredible job in coverage, but I credit that front because they didn't send a bunch of blitzes, and yet they contained Mahomes and totally shut down Kansas City. I mean, Andy Reid is an awesome offensive coach, and to hold him down the way he did. Now, I will say this though, Kansas City was a little bit of a fraud, and what I mean by that is, go back to the Buffalo game. They beat Buffalo by 3. James Cook ran for 6.5 yards a carry in that game, but he only got 13 carries. So it was like Buffalo, I kind of felt like kind of blew it. And, the Texans, if you go back to that first playoff game, which was also, won by Kansas City, Joe Mixon in that game ran for 5 yards a carry. But, they somehow found a way to win the game, despite the fact, Kansas City in that game ran for 2.3 a carry against Houston, but Houston ran for over 5 yards a carry against Kansas City and lost. So I think there were indicators that showed that this was not a vintage Chiefs team. I after the NFC Championship game and AFC Championship game, on Championship Sunday, I'm like, yeah, the Eagles. Give me the Eagles. Give me the Eagles over the Chiefs. And then between then and Super Bowl Sunday, I convinced myself, it's Mahomes. Mahomes, how can you go against Mahomes? And I think probably a lot of people were maybe in the same boat. And there's no doubt the Eagles were the better team, and they really showed it tonight. And it also just goes to show that even if it looks like you're riding high, it's very, very, very difficult to maintain that edge and stay on top. And it's just really hard to do. And to me, it was bad karma for the Chiefs to have that Christmas special, Hallmark special. That talk about your heat check. I mean, that to me might be their jump the shark moment of all time. And you put together a cheesy Christmas special surrounding Chiefs and Chiefs fans. You have Travis Kelce's moms in the movie and the whole. I mean, that thing was so cheeseball. And I said to myself, man, this is almost like the 2025 version of the Super Bowl Shuffle. I mean, this is like your heat check of heat checks. Let's see if they can, get through. And they almost did, but Philly just was way, way too much and picked them off.
I feel like it seems weird to like talk about a Super Bowl team and be like, they're fraudulent. They're literally playing in the Super Bowl as we're watching them. But they were 15-2 this year, but they were 12-0 in one-score games. 12-0. So it's like,
right.
Yeah,
the margins were closer.
That might
played well.
That could speak to that could speak to Patrick Mahomes being the greatest one-score game quarterback in the league right now. But it also can say that look, they didn't win a lot of games by a lot of points. So it's not they weren't really dominating anyone out there. So I feel like that's what we kind of saw today. Their offense wasn't able to do anything against the Eagles.
I think I'll get. Go, Dan. I'll go after you.
No, I was just going to say earlier comment of Kevin about the Niners being not that far away, and with what the Eagles were last year. I think there's some truth to that because you can, if you hit the draft well and hit some free agency, some key acquisitions. But the Eagles had a better base. They had Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown as their wide receivers. The Niners have no legitimate wide receivers coming back. I mean, that actually get open regularly and can separate. I mean, a deep threat like Devontae, he's also can run the shorter route. A.J. Brown is one of the top receivers. I mean, the Niners' best receiver.
The Eagles didn't have Saquon, and they signed Saquon. Go sign a guy. If you're the Niners, you already have CMC. Go sign a receiver.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to have to. You got to go out and get a receiver because you don't have one. Your best receiver is Juwan Jennings, and he's a third down possession type receiver. I think they need two legitimate wide receivers because I don't expect anything from Ayuk next year. If he comes back at all, he's probably going to be a shell of himself until the following season, the 26 season. That was a pretty serious knee injury. So the Niners have to get better at wide receiver. They need to get better at the line, both lines. They need two guys on the offensive line. They need someone on the defensive tackle. They need an edge. They need a lot, and they can do it, but they have to be smart. And in my opinion, the way to do it is to draft wisely don't just go for one guy at 11. Get a bulk of guys like they did in 86 and have a super draft.
No, I agree with you, Dan. I think, the Niners have the foundation of a team that could be great, and they're definitely going to have to make moves. And I think one of the things that might inspire confidence from today in Niners fans is the Deebo Samuel news about him, potentially or him requesting a trade, because I don't think he requests that trade unless he knows the Niners don't want to keep him. Right? Like, and the Niners not wanting to keep Deebo, I think has more to do with them knowing that they need to improve the wide receiver room and not run it back with the same group. So I think if you're a Niners fan, you should be confident that they're going to improve the room. Not that it's a vote in confidence in Ricky Pearsall, Juwan Jennings to carry the load. I think it's more going to be about who they're going to go after. And it's not a great wide receiver draft. So I'm assuming they're going to go sign someone.
Yeah, don't underestimate coaching also. I mean, they beefed up their coaching staff. How many games this year that the 49ers lost in the fourth quarter that they could have done the KC Chiefs and just kind of workmanlike themselves to a victory? They didn't do that this year. So They did improve their talent, but they were devoid of superior coaching this year also.
Frank, who did you play for college hoop wise?
Fordham, Tom Penders was my coach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know that Howie Roseman's a Fordham guy?
No.
So listen to the Howie Roseman story, guys, because I think this is an amazing story.
Wow.
Howie Roseman was born in Brooklyn, right? He grew up in New Jersey, graduated from Marlboro High School. When he was in high school, he wanted to be an NFL, wanted to work in the NFL. So he began sending letters to every NFL team while he was in high school, asking for a job, asking for an internship, asking for an opportunity, okay? And he was persistent, okay? Very, very persistent. And his persistence increased. He went to the University of Florida. He kept writing these letters to NFL teams, and then he went and got his law degree at Fordham.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, Mike Tannenbaum, the pro personnel director at the time for the New York Jets, and you guys know Mike Tannenbaum, he's on ESPN now. He interviewed Roseman for a player personnel intern position in '99 and didn't give him the job. Okay, so he continues pursuing his dream. The Eagles hired him in 2000 as an intern in their personnel department to work on salary cap issues. They then promoted him to the director of football administration in 2003 after he proved himself. He later was promoted to vice president of football administration in 2006, and then was named the general manager January 29th, 2010, after Tom Heckert was hired away by the Cleveland Browns. So he had the title of GM, but he was basically just an advisory role guy to the head coach and the executive VP of football operations, who was then Andy Reid. How about that? So Andy Reid had a final say on all football matters, and Roseman was the GM there. And so, I mean, that's pretty amazing. So he's been there since the Reid regime, and Jeffrey Lurie, the owner of the team, has promoted him through the ranks. Pretty amazing, though. But yeah, bachelor's degree from Florida, law degree from Fordham, is married with 4 kids and started as an intern and has worked his entire NFL career for the Eagles. Eagles in 2000, wow. Eagles to this moment. And now he's a 2-time executive of the year. He's a 2-time Super Bowl winner. He's not even 50 years old yet. So, hey, man,
think about that, though. His first job he applied to, he got declined from, and now he's a 2-time.
Yeah.
Imagine
hey, Kev, you mentioned something about the Chiefs being kind of maybe fraudulent, and yet they get to the Super Bowl. Lou Marston, who's on my channel and Larry knows well, he had KC in the under going into this game. He was in a big pool. And because he had got the most right in a team pool this year, he had the choice of making the bet for the whole big team. Well, he just sent me the ticket. He changed his mind just before the game and went to the Eagles and the over because he realized the AFC was very weak this year. Look at this ticket.
How much did he win? How much did he win?
Well, he took ticket cost $11,519 to win $25,317.
That's a big balls bet, man. Jeez.
Wow. He won $25,000?
Well, he didn't win all of it because it's a big group, but he got the lion's share, I think. I mean, I don't know if you can see it right there. There it is.
I can't see it, but that's sweet.
Shit. Yeah, he won 25,317. Yeah, that's
wow.
That's beautiful.
He parlayed $11,000. I mean, that's crazy. If you're parlaying $11,000.
But he changed it to the Eagles at the end because he heard that the AFC was kind of down and the NFC was a very tough conference. Yeah. A lot of tough teams.
Anthony Merkovich. Lou's got big money. Yeah, Lou does have big money. No doubt about that. Kev and I won today. Kev, we won the CamBR Squares? Is that how we won?
Yeah, I think we won the CamBR Squares competition. We entered it, never saw what numbers we got until they sent me a picture after the game. Like they said, congrats, you guys won.
Wow.
So
we had 0 and 2 as the last 2 numbers, and it was 40-22. And so we're the winners. Nice. That is awesome. Okay, so this was a
You're
big
muted,
day
Dan.
today. Danny, yeah, you're muted, Danny.
Oh, I was just saying that big home run ball at the end was nice to make it 22.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Didn't even know that we needed that though, because I didn't even know the numbers we had. So it was more.
Seriously, we didn't even root. We had nothing to root for. We just found out we won, which is maybe the best way to do it. But today was a big day. Obviously, it was Super Bowl Sunday, and there's a new crowned champion in the NFL. But it was also a big day on a couple of fronts. Deebo Samuel officially wants to be traded. And there was also a report that Brock Purdy's contract, what was the exact report, Kev? That
They want to get it done soon.
They want to get it done soon. Now, I've been talking about both of these quite a bit. So I feel good that I feel like we've been on the right path on both these fronts. I've been saying for the last couple of weeks, guys, and I think I apologize to Frank and to Danny if I've repeated this in a previous stream, but I've been saying that I think the deadline on getting Brock Purdy's contract done is not training camp, is not May, is not the draft, but the beginning of free agency, which would be March the 12th. And I actually kind of think that it might even be maybe a deadline of maybe a week or so before the beginning of free agency. And so to hear Diana Rossini say that, that sounds like they're working towards a completion and that they're trying to get it done sooner. They have, as far as I'm concerned, they have about a month to get it done. But I really think the deadline is free agency, kind of what Danny was talking about as far as they don't have great receivers, and it's not a good receiver draft. And I kind of think that if there was a report coming out of the Senior Bowl that Mike Lombardi said that the Niners may be the surprise team bidding on T. Higgins. I kind of think that they need T. Higgins. I know that sounds crazy because people are kind of conditioned to, well, the Niners have spent enough on receivers. But Deebo is going to be traded or released, and he's not going to be here. Ayuk just suffered a career-altering injury. He's probably going to miss half the year, and he's probably going to be diminished when he comes back. What else you got? You got Ricky Pearsall, who had a marginal rookie year. JJ, who runs in the 4.7s, and Cowing, who's clearly strength deficient, needs to get stronger. That's not Devontae. That's not A.J. Brown. That's not as good as the contenders have at wide receiver. So, what do you think? I mean, to me, I think the Purdy deal probably does have to get done by free agency, so they can, if they want to go after a T. Higgins. They've got the ability to do so because they got that contract done. And then the Deebo front, we've been saying, hey, you know what? I think Deebo's gone. I think he's going to be traded. My buddy told me last week, who does real estate, that he's put his Morgan Hill home on the market. I think I shared that with you guys a week ago. I think the handwriting's been on the wall for Deebo that he's gone. So that's not a surprise to me. Now, the question is, what are they going to get? I don't think they're going to get much. 5th-round pick, 6th-round pick. I don't think it's going to be a lot, but I do think they're going to move off of him. Give me your guys' thoughts on these two big stories of the day. Deebo, trade rumors, and the talk that Purdy's contract may get done sooner rather than later.
With regards to Deebo, I think he's going to be cut, unless they figure out some type of financial package, because no team's going to pay top market for Deebo at this point. They like him. I think they could come to the conclusion that last year was kind of an aberration. He might have another year or two, but they're not going to pay top dollar for him. So that'll be interesting. But I think some cold weather location, Pittsburgh, somewhere like that, to be kind of a possession guy, physical type wide receiver. I think he can do that because he's not the fastest guy. With regards to Brock Purdy, again, if the Niners and Brock Purdy's constituents are watching the Super Bowl, they get this thing done really fast, and they use Jalen Hurts' contract as a template. $100+ million guaranteed, but he's not going to set the market for the reasons that you talked about. They need to have other monies to go out and get other players. So the sooner the better with regards to Brock Purdy. And he's a smart guy. He wants to be here. The longer it takes, I think the worse it gets for him and the 49ers.
I say this about Deebo and Brock. I think the most important thing before getting rid of Deebo. I mean, it'd be nice to move off of him, but get the Purdy deal done, because if you can get it done, like you said, Larry, a good week to 10 days before free agency starts, that may be a factor in who you get as a free agent, which receivers, hey, might want to come and actually sign with the Niners, knowing that there's no controversy. There's no holdup there. You know, in baseball, we saw the whole thing happen with the Padres ownership, a big mess, and they're trying to get Roki Sasaki. And obviously bad timing when you're having turmoil in the front office and you're trying to sign a star player. You don't want any controversy with Purdy hanging over you during free agency, because if that is not done and there's reports that they're not close, that could cost them several players in free agency. And as far as Deebo, I would just say this. I'm with Frank. If you trade him, if you can get a fifth, sixth, whatever you can get from him, but if you can't, move off of him. As a DB, when you're taught to play defensive back, you don't watch all the shoulder movements. You watch the hips. And a guy's hips, Deebo doesn't move. He can only go straight. He can't make moves with his hips to the left or the right. So that's why he's covered like a blanket whenever he goes out on a route. He's really just a battering ram of a wide receiver is what he is.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the Deebo front, or actually I'll start with the Purdy. Purdy's going to get paid a high number. I think everyone's going to be a little shocked. There's going to be people doubting them, saying, oh, the Niners, it's going to be the Nick Wright show going on about how the Niners can't win if Brock Purdy gets paid over $55 million. But that's probably the reality of what he's going to get paid, just based on the way he's performed, how young he is, and just the market in general. Like, the numbers are going to be surprising. And then, 2 years from now, when the cap is 50% higher or 25% higher, it's gonna look like a short number or a small number in comparison. In terms of the Deebo thing, I think the Deebo thing's really interesting from a standpoint of, like, if we take our fan caps off and just look at this, like, without any emotions, Deebo had an ugly season for a number of reasons. Like, the performance was ugly, but just the way he handled it was not a really, I don't know, it didn't look good. I mean, you're choking your kicker, and then you're tweeting about how you don't get the ball enough. And then the next game, the game after, you're tweeting about how you're not getting the ball enough, you drop a key ball that ends up being the reason that you lose the game. It's just like that whole thing. Like, it's just not a good leadership kind of mindset. He wasn't, it just wasn't a good season for a number of reasons. And I'm glad the Niners are moving on, just from the standpoint of that kind of proves that they are looking for someone better. Like, you can't really have Deebo Samuel on this team as a bench player. Like, I don't think he's going to handle that well, because if Deebo Samuel, like, I don't know how many receivers or what the exact lineup would be, but I think you need to get Deebo out and replace it with someone better, and then build around that group of wide receivers, because I don't really see a situation where you're getting another receiver and keeping Deebo. In terms of, the cut, the trade, what should they do? The cut would save them more cap space, because they could spread it over 2 seasons after post June 1st cut. But the trade would give them a draft piece. I guess you kind of have to decide what you want there. Would you rather have a draft pick for Deebo, or would you rather just have a less cap hit and then, sign a player? But overall, I'm glad. I'm happy about the news, because I think that this gives them more flexibility to get better. So overall, I'm okay with Deebo Samuel moving on.
The thing about Deebo too is that, it's like, I mean, this was a down year for the 49ers. Okay. So we know that. Ayuk, obviously had a really bad year, right? But he only played 7 games. Christian McCaffrey had a really bad year. He only played 4 games. So that's kind of why those guys were bad. Those guys got hurt. Those guys didn't play. What's Deebo's excuse? Deebo played 15 games. He averaged 3.2 yards per carry on the ground and had 1 rushing touchdown on the year. He played 15 games and had 51 receptions on 81 targets and had 3 receiving touchdowns. We talked about how Ricky Pearsall was disappointing. He also had 3 receiving touchdowns. I mean, he had one more receiving touchdown, Deebo did, than Juszczyk. He had 2 more receiving touchdowns than Eric Saubert. Juwan Jennings had double Deebo's receiving touchdowns. So, I mean, Deebo only averaged 44 yards a game receiving, and he was a total 0 as a runner. And yeah, I mean, you're calling out your kicker, you're putting your hands on the long snapper, and then Kyle. To me, I knew the Niners were done with Deebo as soon as Kyle featured him in that game after he bitched and complained, because it was totally it totally reeked of, we're getting rid of this guy at the end of the year and we're going to give him the ball. You know, we're giving him the ball in this moment, but we're getting rid of him at the end of the year. I think that was my read on it at the time.
We all remember the Rams game. That game, like, I was pulling my hair out during that game. It was insane because they just targeted him over and over and over. They handed it off to him. It's like they were doing everything in their power to give Deebo Samuel the ball, but he just doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it. He was a step slow all year. He showed out in that Miami game and, you know, looked like vintage Deebo. But damn, I mean, in those other games, the dude was just a step slow and just wasn't the same guy. Not even, like, I think it was one of those slow deaths where it's like, you know, he was a little bit worse the year prior and you don't really notice. If you go back and watch his 2021 highlights, it's a different player, man. He was incredible in 2021. You forget how insane he was looking back at how he played this year. So, I mean, it's just,
look at his game log. Look at his game log this year. I mean, seriously, very forgettable game log, except for
Miami.
And why? Why did he play so well against Miami? Because I think he wants to play for Miami.
Mm-hmm.
He knows Mike McDaniel. He wants to live in Miami. He loves that weather, I'm sure. Who wouldn't want to live in Miami? Beautiful place, incredible city, beautiful women. I mean, it's an incredible place. 9 targets. He had 7 catches for 96 yards and a touchdown in that game. The rest of the year, listen to the totals. 16 yards, 22 yards receiving, 20, 21, 22. He had a big day against Seattle where he had 5 catches for 102, but he had 176 yard run. Other than that, he had 110 against Minnesota in week 2. That was a big one. 10 targets. He caught 8 for 110. So he had 200-yard days, and then basically he never had over 60 yards after the Tampa game. From like early November on, he never did anything except for that Miami game where he just absolutely came alive. So I think he'd love to play in Miami. I don't know if Miami wants him. Maybe Baltimore may want him. Baltimore, I think, came at the Niners last year around the draft. I mean, the one thing a lot of people would say, oh, there's no way they're going to be able to trade him with that money and that contract and the year that he just had. But the one thing you got to remember, though, if you do like Deebo, he's a one of one. And you could look at that Niner offensive line and say, he just operated behind a crappy offensive line. You put him behind our offensive line here in Baltimore, here in Philly, here in Kansas City, here in Detroit, here, I think there's a lot of teams that might look at Deebo and say, you know what, the Niner O-line wasn't great. But if you like his style as a player, there aren't too many players that are like him. So it will be interesting. All it really takes is one team to show some interest. I don't think they're going to get a lot, but I do think they'll get something. I don't think they'll be forced to release him, but I think they're going to be forced to take a day 3 pick. I don't think they're getting a 3rd-round pick. I've heard people say that they're getting a 5th-round pick at best, I think.
Yeah. I think I saw a photo of him in an Eagles jersey recently.
Yeah, with a gigantic boiler. You saw that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Did you guys see this today, though?
No,
this Deebo on his private story on Instagram put a picture of himself in a Broncos jersey, saying would be so tough. So he's kind of like, maybe he's saying that he wants.
I wonder why he wants to go to Denver.
Sean,
it's kind of funny because they have their own version of him in Mims,
who's way faster.
Yeah,
right.
Way faster.
What do you guys think? It's kind of interesting. We kind of laughed a lot at Nick Sirianni. At least I did last year. I mean, when they started losing 5-6 games in a row, and what did they start off 9-10-1, something like that. Then they lost like 6 in a row, and he was so arrogant. We were just like, he's such a clown. And where do you rank Nick Sirianni in the head coaching top 10? I was just doing a little writing some stuff down and kind of thinking, what's the pecking order in coaches? And I started writing down. I started with Andy Reid 1. I went with Sean McVay 2, John Harbaugh 3. I kind of got to go with Nick Sirianni at 4. The guy is nothing but 1. He hasn't had a losing season.
What? Why would he be? Why would he be over Sean McVay?
Right.
I didn't. I had McVay 2.
Oh, you had McVay 2. I thought
I had McVay 2, John Harbaugh 3.
He has
Sirianni
good coordinators,
4.
man. I mean, he has 2 really good coordinators.
I mean,
yeah, but he went and he lost his coordinators and he reloaded and he went back and he's won a Super Bowl. He's been to 2 Super Bowls, dominated. His record 9-8, 14-3, 11-6, and 14-3, 48-20 in the regular season, 2 Super Bowl appearances with a victory. I mean, how can you just knock and say just because he's kind of a emotional guy, he's done nothing but win?
Let me say this, Dan. Next year, you'll be able to judge how good a coach he is. You know what I'm saying? I mean, what he did this year was he took a step back, let his coordinators do their job, and let his talent do what they do. They had talked about he and Jalen Hurts actually going back and forth last year, having some problems. And all of a sudden, Jalen Hurts is more of a team leader this year. So I think Sirianni has done a great job, but I want to see what he does next year. Nobody repeats in the NFC East. He's going to get a $12, $13 million contract. The nucleus of his team is there. Let's see what he does next year, because I actually don't think Philly is going to be the team next year. I think there'll be a different team in the NFC representing them for Super Bowl next year.
But Frank, look at what he's done. He lost both coordinators after they went to the Super Bowl.
I think he's good.
And he's got him back. I think part of coaching isn't just X's and O's, but actually letting your coaches coach and putting all that together. To me, that's kind of a good general.
He's a good coach. He's a very good coach, but I want to see him do it next year. Football is the one sport that it truly is a year-to-year proposition. Only the quote great teams are the ones that put it together consistently on a year in and year out basis. Right now, I can't say that definitively Philly's going to be better than the Washington Commanders. I can't say that. So I want to see.
I mean, I think he is a very good coach, but he's also being really well supported. I mean, we just sang the praises of Howie Roseman. Go look at Roseman's drafts. They've been fantastic. But I think more than anything, a lot of these coaches that are neither the OC nor the DC, at the end of the day, a lot of times people are like, well, what do they actually do? You know what I mean? You're not the coordinator. You're not the OC. You're not the DC. The buck doesn't really stop with you. So it's hard to sometimes glean exactly the value of the head coach when it's not necessarily his scheme. But you know what? The results are the results, and he's been to 2 Super Bowls and he's won 1. And not only has he won 1, they've got a really good, talented base of talent, and they're going to contend probably for the next 4 or 5 years. In a lot of ways, I think the Eagles are the template for the 49ers. You know, is Jalen Hurts an awesome quarterback? No. But you know what? He if you support him with a good line, a great runner, tremendous defense, he absolutely can make enough plays to win games. And I feel the exact same way really about Brock Purdy. Now, Kyle Shanahan's going to have to show that he can have real growth, because I think the one thing where Sirianni's better than Shanahan is Sirianni is thinking and play, and the way he runs a game is more in line with the cutting edge analytics thinkers in the league, which is, you don't pass on 3rd and 4 and then either kick a field goal or punt if you don't get it. You run on 3rd and 4 to set up 4th and 1, and then you quarterback sneak on 4th and 1, and you go for 4th downs, a lot when you're not backed up inside your own 30-yard line. Where Shanahan is almost like he will only go for it if he's between the 50 and the other team's 30-yard line. If he's on his own 30-yard line, his own 35, his own 40, his own 45, his own, you know what I mean? He tends to want to, pass on 3rd and 4, and if he doesn't get it, he punts. Well, possession of the ball, I think the analytics crowd is understanding that possession of the ball means an awful lot. There's only so many possessions in an NFL game. I just think that Shanahan's got to take this offseason, relook at the numbers, relook at the analytics, see the best teams in pro football. And the bottom line for the Niners, we can talk about other things, but the one thing that the Eagles can do that the Niners can't do, and whatever the reason is, it's a fact. The Eagles can run the ball in the low red zone. The Eagles can run the ball in short yardage. The Eagles can run the ball on the goal line. The Niners cannot. And if you can't run the ball in short yardage on the goal line, and you're going up against a team that can, you're going to lose. It's just a matter of, are you going to lose close or are you going to lose by a blowout? But you're not going to beat that team. It's too important of an element in the game to give that away willingly to your opponent. So the Niners had better get real about the low red zone and running the ball. And that means get a better back, a better center, a better fullback, and start punching people in the mouth and start running the ball. Bigger, more physical offensive line. You just watch Mekhi Becton. People laughed at Mekhi Becton. He's wearing a freaking Super Bowl ring now. And by the way, everybody laughs at Big Dom. Big Dom's got a Super Bowl ring, and the Niners don't. So chew on that for a while. But yeah, the Niners have got Juice, goodbye. Brendel, goodbye. McCaffrey exclusively, goodbye. Get yourself a better contact back. Get yourself a better fullback who's more physical. Get yourself a better center that's not 285 pounds. And start bulldozing some people and start winning at the point. Start running the ball in the low red zone. And only then are you really going to have a shot. You're not beating all these teams if you can't run inside the 5, and they totally can. So bolster the D-line, but, man, you sure as hell better get a fullback, a running back, and a center, or you're not going to be able to run the ball in the low red zone, and you're not going to win.
Yeah, no, I think you're 100% right. Like, I think I read an article by Ted Wynn in The Athletic. He did a really good breakdown on this. We're seeing a running back renaissance right now, and just how the NFL is played. Like, for a lot of years, it was it's become a pass-heavy league, of course, more passing every single year. But as of late, we've seen running backs become more and more valuable, and I think the Eagles are the best example of that. Adding Saquon Barkley to a dominant offensive line, you saw their offense this year; it was unstoppable, especially with Jalen Hurts behind quarterback. Look at the Detroit Lions with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery and that offensive line. They can get a first down on 3rd and short because they're going to run it twice up the middle, and they're going to get a first down. Being able to convert on 3rd and short and 4th and short is football now. Like, that is so important with the analytics and going for it on 4th down. Like, that's where the NFL is now. So I 100% agree. Like, get a road grading guard for all I care. Like, get the offensive line better. Win in the trenches. That's where the game's being played right now.
You can't give it up. You can't just sit there and be like, well, we're just not good at that and they're good at that. No, you're never going to win. I mean, you have to be good at that. You have to bolster that. Let's hit some supers here. And then Kev, or am I slamming this Heineken? Is that what you got? Where are we on that? Kev wants me to slam a beer in the middle of the show.
There's a goal. There's a super chat goal. If we hit 50 super chats, you're slamming a Heineken, but we're at 15, so I don't know if
we're at 15, so I don't know if I'll be slamming. Mr. 33 Degrees says, I'm amazed at this score with Barkley not doing much. This is what happens when the refs don't pamper Kansas City. Vegas was way, way off. Your thoughts? Kansas City couldn't do anything offensively, and then when you start mixing in turnovers and pick sixes and turnovers deep in your own territory, you start giving teams short fields, and all bets are off. I mean, that's really what I saw. What did you guys see?
Oh, I was livid. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, I was livid on that first, third, or 4th down play, or maybe 3rd down play to A.J. Brown, where A.J. Brown got called for an OPI. I was like, oh, my God, here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Shades of Kittle.
Bailed out again. Like, here we go. But that was pretty much the last bad call, they got the Eagles got. I think the Chiefs kind of got some bad calls towards the end of that game that really screwed them. So, yeah, the Chiefs definitely, they didn't get any favors in this game from the refs.
You guys think that there was so much talk, social media with the refs and the Chiefs, that it played a factor in the NFL just saying we've got to just be
Call it straight.
very careful not to make this lopsided and just call it straight? I mean, even they even got called for a pick, which was a pick on that. I guess it was a 2-point conversion or a touchdown. I can't remember, but it was a clear pick. But usually they get away with that.
That was obvious, though. That was such a.
I know, but the Chiefs, it's just
the penalties were pretty even. 8 for Philly, 7 for KC. One thing I'd love to know is if we went back and looked at all the playoff games, how many times did the team that won the turnover battle win in the playoffs? Because Kansas City was -2. Philly was +2 in turnovers. That it's like turnovers. Philly also dominated the time of possession. They held the ball for 37 minutes.
Yep.
And they played keep away from Mahomes. They were +2 in turnovers. What can you say? The Eagles ran it 45 times. 45
Pretty sure the Eagles
times.
won the turnover battle in every single postseason game they played.
Yeah.
They were Yeah. I
They
think
take the ball
did
away.
against Washington. It was brutal.
Here's the other thing. You know what? The Eagles, for the most part this year, were healthy. Saquon Barkley has had some real highs in his career, but he's had some injuries. This dude did not get hurt this year. And none of their guys really got hurt. Goddard may have missed a little bit of time, but by and large, the Eagles were a healthy football team. Even when Jalen Hurts got nicked up, he came back the next week and played with the exception of one game. So a lot of the dominoes kind of fell in place for Philly this year. And because they were so damn talented, they went out there and just did what they were supposed to do. Dan and I were talking about this last night. Dan, you did all right with the Eagles, didn't you?
Yeah, I just took the Eagles straight up. I kind of was going with the Chiefs at the end, but then I thought, I thought the better team was the Eagles physically.
Right.
And so I just kind of thought something like Larry. I kind of thought, oh shoot, it'll probably come down to last possession and Mahomes, but the Eagles did what you were supposed to do, and they took the game away from the officials. They didn't leave any room for the officials to be a factor. They put the pedal to the metal. They just stepped on the gas, and they did not let up. And I think that was some of the difference what I saw this year's Super Bowl versus last year. The Niners had a chance to score and really put it to the Chiefs and go up by two plus scores at halftime, and they just got too darn conservative.
It's interesting. I was just going to say it's interesting also with the injuries. The Niners had so many guys on season-ending IR by the end of the year. If you think about how many guys they lost, Ayuk, they lost CMC. The guys just kept falling as the year went on. Dre Greenlaw, and and you look at Philly. I'm just looking at their injured list for the year. The only two guys really that they lost along the way, they lost Nakobe Dean late in the year. He was their starting linebacker, and they lost James Bradbury. That's it for the entire year. They had two guys of note on season-ending IR. That's impressive. That's it's at least a contributing factor. I'm not, it's not the end all be all, but man, luck is part of the deal. And I'll give them credit though. Nakobe Dean goes down. Oren Burke stepped up, and they didn't miss a beat. I don't know how they did it, but they did it.
I just added it up. The Eagles' first turnover of the postseason was in this game, at least from what I'm seeing. They won.
And if you're going to have a turnover,
listen to this. They won the turnover battle 13-1.
Wow!
And
it
was
was
13-1 in the playoffs. That's
wow.
It cost them 3 points, but it sure pinned KC. It put them back at the 5-yard line or something like that. That interception, 4-yard line, whatever it was.
Plus
maybe
12,
it was
though. Plus 12 turnover differential in the playoffs.
But you're right, David. That pick was like they didn't score, but it wasn't like KC was in some great field position. They were in like the 4.
Right, exactly. So it was kind of like if you're going to turn it over on a pass, great way. It's kind of almost like, well, It's like a punt. Yeah, pinned him. And I think didn't they end up stopping KC and then scoring after on the next drive?
There was an interception and then there was a 3-and-out punt, and then the Eagles got the ball back and then eventually kicked a field goal. So
okay,
yeah, they didn't score any points off that.
Sirianni won before offensive genius Kyle chokes. All right. It's always got to be a Kyle.
The only thing about coaches I want to add, because we were talking about this, and I was thinking, like, I think, the one, like, it's so hard to judge a coach from the outside looking in. Like, we really don't have that much information. We're just watching games. But I just think it's funny because, like, if you look at, like, the Lions offensive defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn at one point in the season was being touted as, like, the next great defensive mind. He's going to be a head coach. I mean, he's going to be the next
He got the Jets job.
He did. But 3 weeks later, the Lions had the worst defense in the league and they couldn't stop anyone. So it's like, what does that say? What does that tell you? That tells you that it's a lot about personnel. Yeah. And so what do you value? I think that what you can prove is consistency. If you're consistently good, that means you're probably a good coach. And I hate to point in this direction because this coach hasn't won a Super Bowl in a long time, but Mike Tomlin hasn't had a losing season in a long time. And I know they don't win playoff games, but Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, I thought that roster was pretty shitty, to be completely honest. And they won 11 games with Russell Wilson and no offensive weapons and a really good defense, but they were a hard team to beat. So I think if you're trying to judge someone, I think consistency is something that you have to factor in.
No doubt. I also think defense is a big part of it. I mean, you got to have good defense. You got to have good defense in the NFL. I mean, look at Philly's defense tonight. I thought they really ruled the day. I thought Fangio was fantastic. I love Philly's defensive line. And you talk about Pittsburgh, what did Pittsburgh have this year? Yeah, I mean, Fields didn't see the field that well. Russell had his moments, but in reality, they just hung around because they got this killer D. They got 3 levels of good defense, and they can win any game, any week because of their defense. G-Code Travels Vlog POV says D-Line won the Super Bowl. 49ers go trade for Myles Garrett. A lot of people want Myles Garrett. The Big 25 says Shanahan Lynch, take notes, address the O-line and the D-line. Oh, I'm sure they are. I'll say this about John Lynch. He was absolutely front and center at the D-line, O-line one-on-ones, watching that in Mobile intently and taking notes. Propa says this game shows that a D-line needs to be our top priority. Only way to beat an elite quarterback is that way. Might need Myles Garrett if we're truly all in. I know everybody knows Myles Garrett, but this is a super loaded D-line draft, and there's a bunch of guys who you don't know the names of that are really going to be good. That won't, might be, I don't know what approach they'll take. Do you go the one approach, the singular Myles Garrett approach, or do you trade back from 11, get a bunch of second, third, and fourth round picks and just draft 5 or 6 defensive linemen? I'll say this. There's a lot of great defensive linemen in this draft, and if you pick the right 3 or 4 guys, you could change your team for the next 10 years. If you get Myles Garrett, you're going to have to trade a lot of that draft capital away, and he is 29, and you're giving away a lot of prime. You're giving away a lot of prime. Now, he's a great player, but if he gets hurt, you're the Warriors against the Raptors in the NBA Finals with great players who are hurt, and you're losing because the Raptors were deeper. You need depth in the NFL. Beats and meats. The game turned when the refs actually called holding on the Chiefs. They weren't allowed to cheat their way through the game, and that allowed their O-line to get dominated. Okay, you knew there's going to be a bunch of those. Joseph Ernberg goes to show how far behind the Niners are. Kyle's a loser. Okay, Ernberg, anti-Kyle. Mr. Funny. Eagles did something Niners couldn't do, and that's beat the Chiefs. Howie Roseman is really, really good. We have Lynch, who whiffs on early round picks. Right now, that is a big difference, is how Roseman's not whiffing on these picks. Cryptic says Niners have the same makeup as the Eagles. Difference is when the Eagles get turnovers, they capitalized on scoring touchdowns instead of 3-and-outs. Yeah, that's a good point. They made those turnovers count for sure. Jeb says watching the god of the Purdy haters shit the bed was glorious. Who's the god of the
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Kev?
The god of the Purdy, is that Nick Wright?
I don't know.
Because he's a
because maybe Nick Wright's a big Kansas City fan. There you go.
A huge Chiefs fan. So
did Jen say Purdy will get his money after seeing Hurts win? Supposedly, some of the reports this week, Purdy's going to get $55 million or north of that. SD7777 says Walter Nolan at 11 confirmed. He is a great player. There's no doubt. Matt Waring says the game changer was the Eagles being able to get home with 4 consistently. I agree. They dominated the whole game. Shows what the Niners are missing, defensive tackles. Yeah, I kind of agree. If you look at that Eagle front, it's not just Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith. They also had Ojomo in there. They had Thomas Booker in there. They had Jalix Hunt in there. I mean, they had some guys come in a rotation. Brandon Graham, Josh Sweat. It seemed like they had a number of guys. Now, their defensive front was good. I mean, their defense, I think, is really well coordinated. I don't know if it's the greatest defensive personnel I've ever seen or anything. I don't think it's like an all-time defense. But I do give Fangio a lot of credit. He's known as a guy who takes away the deep ball and makes you kind of methodically drive down the field. And they got a lead on Mahomes. They pressured Mahomes. They covered up his first read. They took away the run lanes, and it seemed like he had nowhere to go. I mean, that's what I saw. A couple more here. Bro Montana. Vic Fangio's Super Bowl defense been overdue for decades, 100. Kalba Kamiga says, I'm guessing Deebo wants an extension from any trade candidate. Lynch is basically giving Deebo permission to find out the market doesn't value him that much. We'll talk about that in just a second. The O-line, L. Kurtz says the O-line makes the running back bolster the O-line simple. Easier said than done. Matthew Waring says Deebo was gone, taking kickoffs in garbage games. LOL. Loco Ant 1624. Difference this game, no Bill Vinovich. Yeah, God, I am so sick of watching Bill Vinovich. Jesse Wade, draft fucking D-line in my Larry K voice. Thank you. Is that how I sound? L. Kurtz, Eagles did what the Niners couldn't. Too big to rig. Bazi Mian, Eagles had the tallest and heaviest O-line ever seen in Super Bowl history. Meanwhile, the Niners bring out Brendel and McKivitz. Niners should take a lesson. Yeah, I think it's time to upgrade the O-line for sure.
Well, I think this was a few super chats back, but I feel like this is a good point. Like, and maybe it's something to think about. Like, if you have a superstar running back, like the Giants did, like the Niners do, maybe you're doing yourself a disservice by not having a good offensive line, because it's like, yeah, they complement each other. It's offensive line, running back. Maybe your running back would be, if you have a superstar running back, maybe he would be a little bit more special if you were able to pair him with an offensive line. So I think that's something that people need to think about when they're building.
Yeah, it's also kind of like, hey, let's pay the quarterback $55 million and not have a great offensive line. I've heard Larry use this analogy. It's kind of like building a house without a roof. It's like, you might want to protect your investment and get some top offensive linemen. And really, I mean, you can see that the teams that win, you can just go back and look at almost every Super Bowl winner. They have a dominant offensive line and a dominant defensive line, or at least one of the two, but both of them are usually top 10 in terms of efficiency in the game. You don't have, it's not like, we've got the worst pitching staff when we won the World Series. You better have a freaking good offense and defensive line. That's where games are won, in the trenches. And it's been proven.
Offensive line is the one area that is not dependent on any other position. If you have a great offensive line, that great offensive line is not leaning on anybody else. They're kind of the beginning of football, is the offensive line. So, yeah, I mean, and look at the trend. I would encourage everybody to go read Ted Wynn's piece in The Athletic on kind of what Kev referenced before, kind of like, how the new era of the NFL. I mean, if you want to look at just the last 3 years, okay, the Eagles had a killer run game with Saquon Barkley. He was arguably the MVP of the league. They win the Super Bowl, okay. Last year, the 49ers had an amazing run game with Christian McCaffrey. Did they win the Super Bowl? No, but they made it to the Super Bowl. And they had the number one rush offense in pro football. 2 years ago, the Eagles had the number one rush offense in pro football. They made it to the Super Bowl. So, I do think having a dominating rush offense is a major part of winning a championship. I mean, it's not coincidental that, the last 3 years, the top team in the NFC was the best running team. And, one of those teams got it done today in the Eagles on Super Bowl Sunday. But the Niners and the Eagles the last 2 years got to the Super Bowl. So, having that dominating run game, and to me, this is one of the best running back drafts I've ever seen. I think this is a tremendous running back draft, and I think you got to get yourself at least one. The Rutgers back Kyle Monangi, to me, has got the greatest contact balance I've ever seen. This guy gets knocked left and right. He never falls down. I mean, this guy could literally get hit by a bus and he would stay on his feet and keep running. So that's my guy, and he's probably going to be a 5th-round pick. So we'll see.
There's a comment that just got put in there that I wanted to address, and it just amazes me. The number one, not the number one need, but a huge need of the Niners last year was secondary. And they drafted Ricky Pearsall instead of Cooper DeJean. And they could have had DeJean short up the middle of the defense and the back end of it. And he's a guy that looks like he's going to be, perennial all-pro. He's just a great player. And you went ahead and drafted a wide receiver that was not a need going into this season. Just, it doesn't make, nothing against Pearsall, but you could have even traded back and still probably got both. You probably could have traded back 2 spots, got DeJean, and then picked up Pearsall, 8-10 picks later. It
is a what if, because there was a lot of talk going into the draft weekend that Cooper DeJean was their guy, and they went with Ricky Pearsall. I think Pearsall is going to be an effective player, but I mean, Cooper DeJean is definitely a good player too.
The other ironic thing about that, Danny, is that they announced to some guy in their organization that they were going to draft Cooper DeJean, and then that person told Mike Silver, and then Mike Silver tweets out, the Niners are picking Cooper DeJean. And that's how they found out that one of the people in their office was leaking information, and they end up picking Ricky Pearsall. I don't know if you guys remember that, but
did they fire the guy?
Yeah, I think so. But for about 5 seconds in Ninerland, we all thought that Cooper DeJean was the pick, but it was really it was a hoax. It was it was to find the mole, I guess.
That's how you find the mole. Yeah, throw a little thing out there. Yeah.
Wait a second. Did we get this one before? We got this one. Daryl, 49er for life, Smock. When the 49ers are winning, Kyle plays to keep the lead, not to win the game. That's why we're not going to win a Super Bowl with him. Shaking my head. I hear the frustration. I mean, there's a lot of frustration. I personally don't love Kyle's approach when they fall behind. He feels like he abandons the run. Until he gets it done, he's always going to have people questioning him. I mean, he's the best coach in football that doesn't have a ring. And unfortunately, that's not a label that you want. And it's not a label that goes unnoticed. People notice. It's that way in college football as well. They know who the best coaches are who don't have a ring. And Kyle Shanahan's one of the best coaches that doesn't have a ring. So I do think he's going to get one. But it's not going to happen accidentally. It's going to happen because they get some momentum going personnel-wise, and they make a number of good draft choices back to back to back. They've now taken a significant step behind the top teams in the NFL. I think there's at least 5 or 6 teams that are better than the Niners for sure, maybe more like 8 or 9. If they're going to get up off the deck and compete for a Super Bowl, it's going to take some effort. It's going to take some, because now you're going to pay your quarterback more. That means you're going to have to be better at drafting. So it's as simple as that. I mean, it's go time for them. They have to get better.
Hey guys, 27 super chats right now. We need 23 more to watch Larry slam down a Heineken. Come on, 23 more super chats. A couple little lines, $2. That's it.
Frank, do you need a jet?
Yeah, I got to get ready for my show, but thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
We should tell people about your show, Frank. It's called In the Dungeon. It's on YouTube, just the way it's spelled right there underneath Frank's name. Yeah. In the Dungeon Show. And you're starting up at 9 in about 15 minutes.
Yeah, I'm gonna probably about 9:10. I need about 25 minutes to get ready. So
alrighty.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate everybody.
Good to see you, Red.
Good to see you, Frank.
Peace
Have
out,
a great
brother.
Sunday. Appreciate you. Frank Red. Let's hit a couple more of these so we can get through these. Let's see. Jerry Schetzel, did I get this one? Montana will always be better than Patty Mahomes. Never saw Montana get worked like that in a Super Bowl, and that is when the league could play defense. Yeah, Montana had no interceptions. None in the Super Bowl. How about that? Four games, 11 touchdowns, I think, no picks.
Brady in his 10 Super Bowls, 21 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Mahomes so far in his 5 Super Bowls, 7 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
Wow. And
what
Montana, I think 11 touchdowns, none.
3-2, right?
3-2. 2 wins against the Niners, and 1 against
I'm going to bet in this offseason that the Chiefs,
Eagles,
whatever it is, I'm betting that the Chiefs do not make an appearance in the Super Bowl for the foreseeable future, maybe 2 years. There's the betting, the ticket prices were way down this year. The cost of tickets to get into the dome was way down, and they cited Chiefs fatigue as the number one reason. The NFL,
maybe that's why the refs weren't throwing the flags, man. I don't know.
So wait. What are you saying, Danny? That the price to go to the Super Bowl this year was down
60% less on the tickets this year.
How much do you think of that was the terror on January 1st?
I don't think it had much to do with that. I think the security was so tight. I mean, everybody knew
think about it this way: like
Trump was going to.
Chiefs fans have already spent all their money. Maybe they've done it already.
Like when there's a huge game, like say a Warriors game, like when if the Warriors hadn't been to the playoffs in 20 years and they go to the playoffs, like everyone wants to go see a playoff game. You know, it's like this is historic.
It's like the Indians. It's like the Cleveland Indians in the mid 90s. You know, or the Braves in the early 90s.
There's nothing special or historic really about this Super Bowl, like in terms of a fan experience. Like I was there at Super Bowl 59 when Mahomes. It's like, you know, maybe I guess with the three-peat, but I don't know.
But I mean, the Niners travel like madmen. The Niners didn't travel this well in their heyday. The Niners are the best traveling team in football. Do you know that? The Niners travel better than any other team in pro football. The Niners draw the biggest crowds of any team on the road in the NFL. Their fans go out there. I think it's John Chapman. I think it's Chapman single-handedly driving the crowds on the road.
I think it's the dynasty, because there's something about the dynasty that like made people internationally like synonymous with like become Niners fans. Like they just want to be part of that dynasty.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You got to remember the Niners had a ton of fans. I mean, California has so many people. When LA lost their team for years, most of Southern California became Niner fans.
Well, and let's be honest, and it's not everybody, but how do you get your fandom?
Winning.
Your dad. Well, I was gonna say your dad, right?
Yeah.
Your dad. You know, why am I a Giants fan? Because George Kruger was a Giants fan. Why am I a Niner fan? Because George Kruger was a Niner fan. You know, why am I a Warrior fan? Well, I don't know if George Kruger was a Warrior fan, but we live near the Warriors. But you know what I'm saying? It's like you're kind of the fan of whoever your dad's a fan of. And you're right. There's an awful lot of dads walking around saying Steve Young, Joe Montana. Decades of that, and all of a sudden you've got all kinds of. You're right too about the international market. I mean, the Niners are huge in Mexico City. The Niners are huge in London. I hope the Niners. There's a chance the Niners may play in Australia this year against the Rams. I'm looking forward to.
Though, right? Or is that
what's
this
that?
year? I think that's for 2026.
I'm not sure. Maybe that might be 2026.
Yeah.
We got this one. Joseph Ernberg. Pay Purdy equals no playoffs or first round exits. Then he says, Gus hire means nothing. Defense is going to be trash.
It's nice.
Yeah, Joseph. Does Joseph work for Hallmark? Joseph.
I think
you got any thoughts? You got any thoughts on the end of the world? Does it look like it's coming? Is it coming near? Joseph Ernberg sounds like he may be a perfect Giants fan. Perfect San Francisco Giants fan. How do you feel about Wade and Flores at the first bag? Ernberg? What if he's like, I love it. Those guys rake. Bring me Yaz. Bring me Wade. Bring me Flores. Bring me liberty or bring me death. Matthew Waring says, draft 4 defensive linemen. I'm saying 5. It's so deep this year. Save the Myles Garrett money on a wide receiver in the Falcons center. Please, LK, get ready to chug a Heineken, my friend. There we go.
You're only 16 away.
16 away. All we need is 16 supers. And I got not only that,
It can be of any size. They can be $2.
I got the Heine tall. I got the Heine tall.
Let's see the can if it's opened or not. Is it opened? Is it half gone? It's probably half gone.
No, but it's
filled with water. Okay.
No, it's right. It's
there it is.
I've got a full glass ready to slam.
There we go.
That's a non-alcoholic beverage, just for our purposes of.
It's a GDO duels. Watch me throw down this O'Duels.
For YouTube's algorithm, that is a non-alcoholic.
That's an O'Duels.
That is an O'Duels. Yes.
That's an O'Duels. Okay, here we go. I agree, by the way, with Matthew Waring. I love Myles Garrett, but saying it doesn't take any effort or energy or intellect to say, go get Myles Garrett. But in reality, that kind of mentality is the downfall of the 49ers. There was a great article by Jeff Howe in The Athletic, and it was written about a month ago. And it was the article, I don't know if you saw it, Danny. It was really, really good. It was about how not only did the Patriots win a lot with Belichick and Brady, but the way they won made teams just totally deflated, and teams just kind of, started like scrapping their what's that? They started taking these big chances and take these big risks. And the Chiefs have kind of forced the same thing. The Niners, they lose the Super Bowl 54. What is their takeaway? We got to get Trey Lance because we need a quarterback that's more like Mahomes. So they took this huge gamble on Lance, struck out horribly, and are just trying to find their way out of it. Cleveland lost to Kansas City in the playoffs, and they said, screw Baker Mayfield. We're getting rid of him. We're trading everything we can for Deshaun Watson. That's turned out to be the worst trade in the history of the NFL. It makes the Herschel Walker trade look like a bargain, and they're screwed. And so it's like you look at these teams, and they've taken some monumental chances. Lou Anarumo in Cincinnati was like supposed to be the guy who could beat Andy Reid and Mahomes, and then suddenly they lose in the playoffs to Kansas City. They fire Lou Anarumo. They're starting over. There are new schemes. And I just think that there's no question that teams overreact to losing, and I just think that ultimately it just really comes down to everybody wants to say, go get Myles Garrett. But that's what happened with Hargrave. Oh, we'll just get rid of all of our depth and we'll just go after one big time free agent in Hargrave. And we all did cartwheels. Oh, Hargrave and Bosa, they're going to be racing each other through the quarterback, and it's going to be jailbreak on opposing quarterbacks, and how blatantly unfair for opposing quarterbacks to have to go against a line that has Bosa and Hargrave. Well, guess what? It didn't work out. And going all in on Trey Lance didn't work out. And for the Browns, going all in on Deshaun Watson, it didn't work out. You got to there's no shortcuts. Everybody wants to shortcut everything. You can't shortcut it. You're going to have to go into the draft, and you're going to have to show that you can pick winners. And if you can do it, you're going to be in the Super Bowl, and you're going to win a championship. And if you can't, you're going to be, back on Fox, John Lynch, and you're going to be back as somebody's offensive coordinator, Kyle Shanahan, because ultimately you have to be able to pick winners in the draft. You're not going to be able to shortcut this. I mean, maybe you can get one guy. Maybe you could get a T. Higgins. Maybe you can get a Drew Dahlman. Maybe you can make one trade for a defensive end or whatever. But basically, there are no shortcuts, and you're going to have to go in the draft and pick the right guys. And you can't do what Dallas does. One year you get Mozzie Smith. The next year you get Micah Parsons. It's like you're going to have to hit, a few picks in a row. Yeah, and you can't miss. And the Niners, Larry, do I have to read the Niners' first-round draft choices under this regime? They are embarrassing. Outside of Bosa and Ayuk, they've drafted nothing but S-birds. Just guys who can't play a lick. And guess what? You're not winning championships if you can't conquer the first round of the draft. You're just not.
Yeah, you look at teams like Detroit and Green Bay. They're young, and they're building through the draft, and they're going to be good for several years. That's just the way it is in any sport. You look at OKC in basketball. You know, how many draft picks did Pressey just
Sam
gobble up?
Presti, yeah. Oh, he's got 22 firsts and like 18 seconds, and you're right.
And he's been doing this for years, but he's been playing the
look at their
long game.
team.
He's playing the long game. Now they should be set for the next 5-10 years. The way they're built. I mean, it's incredible, but you got to hit on those picks.
And this is a great draft for defensive linemen. If you want to go get Myles Garrett, fine, but man, go get 4 or 5 defensive linemen, man. I'll do videos between now and the draft. We'll break down all these good defensive linemen. They're in all kinds of different shapes and sizes. There's all kinds of dudes. 1 techniques, 3 techniques, 5 techniques, edge rushers, guys who are situational rushers, guys who are 2-gappers. I mean, there's just all kinds of behemoths in this draft. Go get yourself some. I would feel very confident looking at this draft that I could build up the 49er defensive line and give them just an ass-kicking defensive front. But it's going to take the commitment of 4 or 5 draft picks, and somebody's going to say, hey, you don't need all these guys, and you do need all these guys. I mean, it's really that simple. DeBig says if going to pay Purdy $50 million a year, better get an O-line to protect your investment. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If you're going to pay Brock Purdy big money, and I think they absolutely are going to, get an offensive line. Build a fortress around him. As simple as that. I mean, start and build just a monster, just a big center, a big guard, a great dominating tackle. Build a monster offensive line and start pounding on people. Mufasa says, I know I can't be the only one that thinks Deebo ain't going anywhere. What do you guys think? Do Kev, I've seen people argue that there's no cap benefit in him going anywhere, that he's Kyle's favorite, and that he's not going anywhere. It seems to me, though, I just seem the feeling around him. I said it earlier in the stream, when they went all in on giving him the ball after he had publicly complained, that to me said to me, he's gone. That's his parting gift right there. Kyle doesn't want to have that conversation with him. Hey man, in that game, you didn't give me the ball. He wants to be able to say, hey man, I did get you the ball. And so I think Deebo's moving on.
Well, here's the deal with the cap. From my understanding of it is that I've seen 2 different numbers. I've seen 10 million or 15 million, but he has an option bonus that becomes guaranteed on March 22nd. So whether it's 10 million or 15 million, there's a certain amount of millions of dollars that is tied up in his option bonus if he's on the roster on March 22nd. So that means that he's not going to be on the roster on March 22nd if the Niners are anticipating that they're going to get rid of him, because they're not going to do it after the fact, because they're just losing out on $15 million that they could save against the cap. So they're either going to trade him or cut him. I feel like it's kind of unlikely they're going to find a trade partner unless they find someone who's enamored by what Deebo can do. In that case, they would face the full dead cap hit.
What about the Raiders?
I don't know.
I always just think of an idiotic team.
They can either cut him or
how about
trade
the
him.
Raiders for Michael Mayer and a 4th round pick?
I don't know. You got Pete Carroll there now and Tom Brady.
They have Chip Kelly.
I don't think you can.
But they have no receivers. I mean, what do they got? They got nothing. Hey, I would think maybe Baltimore might have injuries.
I just don't see I don't see a situation where he's somehow still on the team. I just think at this point it's gone too far.
He's gone.
I got a question for you on the cap, because I don't quite understand how it works, all of it. Can the Niners pay Purdy whatever they agree to, 50, 55 million, whatever it is, and have next year be a, $5-10 million cap hit where it's a lower amount and then graduate it
you
up?
can structure it. You don't have to structure it evenly. You can structure it whatever way you want. You can have like a jumbo payment on the back end, and then you can, a lot of times guys want their money up front, but not always. So there's
as long as the guarantees there.
Look at
Jalen
guarantee. Like Jalen Hurts, what was Jalen Hurts' contract? Like
55, I think.
55? I don't know. I think it was lower than that. Was it
53? Maybe
something
53.
like that. Okay, so he was making 55, 53, whatever it was. If you look at the numbers, I think the first year it was like a $10 million cap hit, and the next year was 12. But if you look at the last year before, it's like an option where they can get rid of him. It's like a 60 or $80 million cap hit. So it's almost like you have to extend him and renegotiate and then push the cap back further. So it's going to stagger, but it gets technical, I mean,
we're getting close to this beer. We're getting close to this beer chug, man. I'm starting to feel the reality of this thing. You were saying it's not going to happen, but now it is going to happen.
We're 5 away.
We're 40. We have 46
Well,
supers.
no, we have 45 because on the YouTube side, because I think one of those is you starred. So it's 45 super chats.
Oh, okay.
5 away.
5 more, guys. 5 more.
We need 5 more. 5 more. L. Kurt says Larry better chug the beer in one tap. Oh yeah. Oh, there's no doubt.
It's no duels though.
Come on. I mean, look at this face. This face can't do a whole lot, but this face can chug a beer. I mean, come on. I went to Sac State. Believe me, I didn't stop by the library too many times, but I've had a few beers. Okay, so let's just say that. Ryan Aloy says, "Who's smiling at Levi's after Super Bowl next year? Kyle or Sirianni? Better check bet US. Haha. I hope it's Kyle. I hope it's Kyle.
That'd be
I hope it's Kyle.
That would be an incredible home game experience.
How disappointed are people going to be, by the way? They went to the Super Bowl this year. They're hanging in the French Quarter. They're partying in New Orleans.
The year before they were in Vegas.
Last year they're in Vegas. This year they're sitting at a strip mall in Santa Clara, in line for a Togo's. Great. That's awesome.
No, but that is funny. It's like we're in Vegas. It's Vegas. It's literally like a whole different world. And then it's like, oh, you're going to New Orleans. It's like tons of
New
tradition,
Orleans, debauchery.
Culture. It's like, welcome to Santa Clara. There's a gas station right here and a Chick-fil-A right here. It's like,
do you realize that millions of dollars are created inside those buildings? Oh yeah, the people are all gone. They went home for the weekend, but and it's just an office park as dull can be.
Where's the
there
media
is a Chick-fil-A over here.
Where's the media checking going to be? Great America? Like, what are we...
Seriously. I mean, if they do Media Row in Moscone Center in the city,
we're one chat away. We're
one chat away.
Look at that.
There it is.
That. You ask and you shall receive. All right,
wait,
hold on a second.
There
it is. We're over the top. Are we over the top? Let me just read the rest of these.
Space Cowboy.
We've got okay, wait a second. We got this one from Killa the Juice Man. Hey, Larry, which prospects from your draft breakdown last year balled out that you wanted the 49ers to draft? Dude, I could go into this for hours and bore the hell out of people, but the guy that I was probably most eager for the Niners to draft was Zach Frazier. And Zach Frazier got drafted by the Steelers. Now, he got drafted by the Steelers, I think, in the second round. Maybe 20 picks after Ricky, maybe 15, something like that. Zach Frazier was the highest graded PFF offensive lineman in the entire draft, regardless of position. If the Niners had gone with Zach Frazier and then come back with Dom Pooney, I think they'd be in a better situation right now. I think they would have have an awesome center and a right guard. I think they would be in a much better spot. Instead, they have I like Ricky Pearsall. Believe me, don't get me wrong. I do like.
It's not even about Pearsall. It's about Brendel.
Yeah, and it's also about investing in the offensive line over a receiver, and I really think that so that's the guy that I'd go with. But I'd have to look at the list from last year. But let's just say this: I'm not that good at anything except for the draft. I don't know much about anything. Like Danny's here, he knows finances. He can talk about all kinds of stuff. Kev's over here. Kev's got a degree in construction management, and he could order around anybody. Me over here, I don't know much, but I do know the draft, and I do know college football players. So I could bust out a list, and I could talk for an hour, and only I would feel good about it. And I would lose the entire audience, so we'll just keep moving. L. Kurt says it's not Chiefs fatigue; it's the rigging it for them. Well, I'll say this: I mean, we can sit there and anybody can say nothing's rigged and this and that. Oh, really? In that Houston game, 2 defensive linemen banged heads, and they just happened to be near Mahomes, and Mahomes drew the flag. Mahomes never even got touched.
Yeah, so assist couldn't have overruled that.
Excuse me?
Replay assist couldn't have overruled that and said, hey,
I don't know,
missed it,
Kev.
guys.
Could replay of assist have overruled that if they had chosen to? Because you saw the play, right, Danny, in the Houston game.
Yeah,
The two helmets came crashing together. Mahomes was on the other side, and
He's
then
underneath him.
basically they officiated the contact, but they assumed it was on the quarterback. It's like, guys, since they're pivotal calls, how about let's have a replayable?
No,
reviewable.
I thought they said something like, yeah, the replay can it can take it away, but not if there's any amount of contact to the head. And like since he was technically tapped, so there's the little
AJ says, did we pass on Fangio to hire?
They couldn't get rid of it, basically. Yeah.
AJ said, do we pass on Fangio to hire Sorensen? In short, yes. I mean, that's bad, but it's really more involved than that.
Going. The chat's chanting for you to chug. So
okay, there we go.
They want you to do it.
Thank you, by the way.
Non-alcoholic beverage. Non-alcoholic beverage.
Non-alcoholic.
Let's go. Let's go.
Do we get some music or something? Let me get something here. I gotta have something. Give me something. Give me some.
We got the 30-second countdown, or
one? Here we go. Something.
NFL
Something.
Theme? Go.
down, Kruger!
Oh, gross. That's gross.
Spike it. Spike. Throw it down. Spike it. Throw it against the wall.
I'm filling up my cup. We can up this now. If we get to, what are we at right now? I'll go for a second chug. Where are we at? We're at 54. We're at 54. What do I have to do for the second chug? We can't go to 100.
75.
We'll go to 75. 75 for the second chug.
21 more.
I mean, were you guys impressed? I mean,
after the 75 one, like, let's get to 80 for the third.
I got another tall boy in the fridge. I really do. There you go, Heine in the big can. Look at that. That's the big can, baby. I do not. I have 9 1/4 inch hands. Okay, so this is not one of those optical illusions.
9 1/4. You didn't pass the combine as a QB then.
Look at that. Look at that mitt. Look at that
9 1/2.
10 3/4.
Someone said, Kev, Gatorade bath on Larry at 100. That would be insane. Can you imagine? I'm like, I'll be right back. And I go to the bathroom and I just come back.
Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe the future of our channel, Kev, is not about sports. Danny, maybe this is the future of NorCal Sports Network. It's not about sports. It's not about sports talk. It's not about community. It's about spectacle.
Imagine it's about spectacle. Like every show from now on, you do in a dunk tank or something.
Or how about this? Every night of the week during baseball season, Danny lights off the worst team in baseball's hat gets lit on fire on the show.
There we go.
So, yes, there we go. I mean, think about the hits, Danny. Think about the views if you turn this thing into spectacle. I mean, we can only ride the negativity of Lou Marston for so long. Yes. Eventually, we are going to need to start lighting stuff on fire, drinking beers, slamming things. We need to turn these shows into spectacle.
2 new ones just came in yesterday, actually. This one is my old one's stretched out, so I needed a new one. And then this is the spring training one. I like this old logo.
What?
Right? The old logo.
Wait. That's the spring training hat?
I think it might be the batting practice. It might be the batting practice spring training.
That's like the old 80s logo, right?
Yeah, that's a cool looking hat. Let me see the sides and the back of that hat. Okay. What is it say on the back? New Era on the side?
Or
San Francisco on the back. I like it. Is it a stretch fit?
Yeah, it's just a stretch fit.
I like the stretch fit.
Yeah, I love
that's
the stretch.
That's a good looking lid.
39.30. Yeah,
we're going to spring training.
Awesome.
We're coming down. We've already booked our deal. We're there.
March 1st.
Which weekend you coming?
We're not
March 1st.
March 1st. Yeah, we're
Okay.
starting early.
Very good.
So we'll have to meet up, and we're going to play a round of golf. I had one of those. The Monday that we're there, I think, is the off day.
Yeah, the
Like
39.
one off day for the Giants. So we're gonna play a little golf that day. But I wanted to make sure. You know what spot I love, Danny? I love Talking Stick.
Oh yeah, that's a great.
I love.
great
What's the
place.
name of that park again?
That is talking. You're
It's
talking
called
about
something else.
Oh, was
Isn't
it
it?
where the Diamondbacks play?
Or it's
You're talking
Talking Stick in somewhere. Or it's something at
Oh.
Talking Stick or something.
Yeah.
Salt River.
about Salt River. Yeah, Salt River. Yeah.
Salt River, which I think is shared by the Diamondbacks and the
Rockies. Yeah.
is one of the coolest stadiums I've ever been at. It's got the killer outfield berm that is just monstrous, Danny. I mean, it's huge. It goes from the base of the wall up about, I don't know, 60 yards, 70 yards. It's huge. I mean, the berm at Talking Stick, is that the biggest berm in the Cactus League?
It's a big one. I mean, there's
way
a
bigger than
few of them.
Scottsdale.
Scottsdale isn't as big. I mean, you got Surprise where the Rangers and the Royals play. That's a pretty good size one out there.
Is it? But that's we're going to Talking Stick to see Giants D-backs, I think, on one of those days.
That'll be fun. I'll be out there with you guys then.
I'll buy you beers. I'll buy you beers. All the beers are on us all day. Okay. Non-alcoholic beers. All right, let's see if we get to. We're at 60 now. We're only 15 away. Okay, so let's hit the rest of these before we jet for the door here. Do we pass on Fangio to hire Sorensen? Yes, sadly. Aaron Loss says, now we can all get ready for the 74 and 88 Giants. Over under 79. That's so negative, Aaron. That is just incredibly negative. Let's try 79, all right? They're going to win 79. John Holmes in the house. Yes. He says, watching the old Super Bowls and the physicality was crazy compared to today. Some of the hits would have gotten people arrested. Sincerely, Jack Tatum. John, you are so right. Danny, I did this exercise this week. I watched Super Bowl 1 through 16 because I hadn't seen them in forever, right? And you know, they're only half hour. I mean, I'm not going to spend 4 hours on these things.
With John Facenda?
Yeah, John Facenda. But Super Bowl 1, first of all, Brock Purdy looks an awful lot like Bart Starr. But the thing that stood out is the physicality. These guys played for freaking keeps. Oh my God, the hitting of yesteryear was vicious.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Vicious. Super Bowl 1, Super Bowl 2, two of the hardest hitting games I think I've ever seen. Guys just diving at each other's knees. I mean, no code, no like, hey, you know, stay off of this, stay off of that. Late hits left and right, driving the quarterback into the turf, all kinds of elbows to the head. I mean, dude, these guys were maniacs. The early NFL players were maniacs.
You know what I remember most about Super Bowl 1? Did you ever hear the story?
There's a lot of empty seats.
Yeah, my dad was there. My dad was there in L.A.
At the LA Coliseum?
Yeah.
There was tons of empty seats, Danny, but how about this? Super Bowl 2, they say that 70 million people watch Super Bowl 2. So nothing. I mean, Super Bowl 1 wasn't sold out. Super Bowl 2, they said that a third of the United States tuned in to watch Super Bowl 2. That's how popular.
Raiders, Packers. What do you remember Super Bowl 1?
That was Vince Lombardi's last game.
You remember the story of Max McGee in Super Bowl 1?
He caught 3 touchdowns. He was drunk or something the night before.
And he was out till 6:30 in the morning. Didn't think he was going to play. Violated the team's curfew and was out with his best buddy Paul Hornung. And so he wasn't sure he'd play. And starting wide receiver got hurt on the third play of the game, forcing McGee into the game. He gets 7 catches for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns. He made a one-handed catch drunk. Gosh.
I did see that. I'll tell you, my first thought when I watched that was there's no chance in hell that Max McGee could play wide receiver in the NFL today. No. I mean, that just no way, no chance, no how. It was a different era. It was a different time. He had an incredible day. Bart Starr had an incredible day. The Packer. I'll say this too. Brock Purdy reminds me of Bart Starr, and my takeaway was Bart Starr had a killer run game, had a killer offensive line, and a great defense. If you gave Brock Purdy a killer offensive line, a killer run game, and a killer defense, I think he could win championships like Bart Starr. I really do believe that.
He's efficient.
He's smart. He's dependable. He doesn't have a great arm, though, so you got to surround him with some good players. Space Cowboy says, one thing is clear. Pass rush wins. Draft for D-line. Amen to that. L. Kurtz. Larry, L.A. is better than the Bay. Lakers and Dodgers. Dynasty. Oh, God. L. Kurtz, you're making me – I'm going to throw up in the middle of the show just reading that. Anthony Merkovich just says, hey, here's $1.99. I want to see that guy chug. Titus Moeller in the house. Is there any wide receiver a better fit for San Francisco than Garrett Wilson? With Deebo leaving, I'm super hopeful. Will Adams give us the speed needed, or will Higgins work money-wise? I think Higgins could work money-wise, but it really depends because I don't know exactly where his market is. Kev, do you have any idea where Higgins' market's going to be? I've seen people say $30 million. If that's his market, you can forget about Higgins. As far as Garrett Wilson, you're going to have to give a couple good draft picks. But he supposedly wants out. He played for Robert Saleh. He was drafted when Saleh was the head coach. I got to think that Garrett Wilson would be very popular with Robert Saleh. I would trade Deebo and picks if I could get Garrett Wilson in a heartbeat. I think Garrett Wilson is exactly what the Niners need. Why? Because he's a route runner who also runs sub 4.4. And they don't have anybody who really scares you speed-wise. And yet the speed receivers that are available are guys that are just go route guys. They're not real route runners. So Garrett Wilson's a real route runner, and he's got 4.37 or 4.38 speed. So that's the guy I'd go after, Danny. I don't know how you feel about it, but that's the receiver I'd try to get.
Garrett Wilson. Loved him at Ohio State. He was incredible, awesome. and he hasn't really got a chance to showcase what he can do in the NFL. He's just –
T. Higgins' salary this year was $21.8 million.
He's going to be 25 north easily.
Yeah, his spot track projected salary or contract is going to be 4 years, $101 million. That'd be $25.4 million AAV. Yeah. That would rank 10th among wide receivers.
He's pretty special, man. At the end of the year, he looked like the best receiver in football. I mean, I know he played in the shadows of Jamar Chase, but I mean, geez, Higgins at the end of the year was unbelievable for our fantasy team.
I mean, this guy might be a little bit of I know it's a lot of money, but in terms of looking at the last receiver signed, I know Higgins isn't a big name, but you got to remember, he's playing with Jamar Chase. I feel like he kind of gets overshadowed by Jamar Chase. This guy's a legit receiver. He's a really good player. He can be a number one. I think, he's coming into his prime and he's a young player. This is when you want to get him. He's 26 years old. So his best years are straight ahead and he's healthy. He doesn't have some lingering knee issue like Brandon Ayuk's going to have for the next year.
I loved Higgins when he was at Clemson, man.
God, I know. And just, you watch him at the end of this year. What game was we watching, Kev, at the end of the year where he was just dominating?
Higgins?
Oh, that was
the one on the pylon right in the corner of the end zone.
Yeah.
And he was just.
Was that the game against? Was that against Denver or something when they beat?
I think Danny's right. I think it might have been the Denver game. He just partied. I mean, he was amazing that day. NBA Elias says, nice to see a field goal kicker make kicks in a big game. Yeah, it's funny how that is. Jesse Wade, Larry, I agree with you 100%. Copy the Eagles. Chug. Jesse, I'm getting close. We're at 65 or 64, Kev? 65?
Oh, you're gonna need a late flurry.
I'm gonna need a late flurry. I'm gonna need 6 more supers to get to 70 for the chug.
You get 75.
May not happen.
75. Need 11.
Oh, we need 11. That's right.
Here's a really
we need 11 supers. They can be for anything, right? What's the cheapest super? $1?
Yeah, but a dollar super, they can't chat anything, so they just give you $1. But so
okay, so
$2.
$1.99. You get
this is a really important statistic I want to throw up on the board. Very important statistic. Patrick Mahomes' record when Tom Brady's playing 0-1. When Tom Brady is announcing he's 0-1, and when Tom Brady's not involved, he's 3-0.
Great.
Very important stuff.
A lot of people predicted that Tom Brady would be a nightmare today. I didn't think he was very good this year, but I thought he was pretty good today, actually. I liked
the
pregame, the halftime. I thought the halftime was an absolute circus.
It was horrible. I will say this about
that was so
Tom Brady.
forgettable.
Whatever he was wearing when he was walking down the Bourbon Street or whatever he was walking, his shirt was partially tucked in. He looked like he'd had full body surgery the way he was walking. It was like, what is he doing?
Yeah, he
looks weird.
I know. There's something about Tom that's become not normal through time. Plus, I'm always skeptical of people that every single time you see them, they have a 5 o'clock shadow. He's like that. He's like that. I want to have a 5 o'clock. It's like the well manicured 5 o'clock shadow.
I don't know. He looks like he went to Mexico or something, had his whole body sculpted or something. He just looks completely like something's off.
He's had work done for sure. Nicholas Paris is all in on Kruger downing a Heineken. Go Niners. Thank you, Nicholas. We're getting close. Bill M says 13 more. All right. Bill M
Down
back
to
in here.
10.
He's 12 to go.
Bill's going to get you there.
Bill, get us there, Bill. Get us there. LD Studios. What do you guys think about Garendo getting Deebo kind of plays with CMC out there? I mean, why not? I want to get the ball in Garendo's hands a whole lot more than this year, next year. I mean, let's be honest. Garendo should have gotten the carries that Deebo was getting late in the year because Deebo couldn't get to the edge and Garendo could. And yet Deebo got the ball and Garendo didn't. So the Niners have to stop, enough. The one thing about the 49ers, and this, it's not always been the case, but this year was that it absolutely was the case. There's a backstory. Like when there's too many backstories, you officially suck. And there was all these backstories. Dobbs is better than Brandon Allen, but you get to the Green Bay game and he goes with Brandon Allen. Why is he going with Brandon Allen? Because the backstory is Kyle likes Brandon Allen more than Dobbs. So to the average person, the average person's like, no, man, play Dobbs. But no, there's a backstory. And then it's like, why is Brendel at center when you have Zakel, who's bigger, and you have Drake Nugent, who's probably more athletic? And because you know what, there's a backstory. Forrester loves Brendel. There's a backstory. Oh, well, it's like, why do you have Sorensen as your defensive coordinator? Oh, because there's a backstory. They couldn't get the coordinator they wanted. They were at the Super Bowl. The coordinators were all hired. They asked their, Bosa and Warner, and they said, we like Sorensen, and they went with. So there's a backstory. Is Sorensen the best coordinator out there? No, but there's a backstory. It's like, I'm so sick of these backstories. It's like, stop having to explain yourself. It's like, oh, you cut Samuel Womack and you kept Isaac Yiadom. Make it make sense. Why? Well, there's a backstory. We invested free agent dollars in Isaac Yiadom. Oh, and the year before, you got rid of Deshaun Jameson, who was your undrafted free agent corner who looked awesome in the preseason and in the training camp and was like voted on as like one of the best newcomers in camp. And though he loses his job to Isaiah Oliver. Why? Oh, there's a backstory. Wilkes wanted Isaiah Oliver and we signed him in free agency. This year, why is D. Winters not playing? And why is, horrendous Devondre Campbell playing? Oh, there's a backstory. We signed Devondre, and he's this proud veteran, and he'll lose his shit if we try to cut him, and he'll lose his ass if we try to put Winters in there. So there's this backstory. Enough of the backstories. Draft the best players, play the best players. Stop having to explain to people why you're cutting good players and keeping bad players and cutting, keeping kickers that don't make kicks, keeping coordinators that can't coordinate. No more. You got to have a bottom line of the best player plays, the best players get drafted. I don't care if you use Jed's money on a free agent. What, you don't feel comfortable telling him? I'll tell him. Hey Jed, guess what? We spent the money in free agency on this guy, but guess what? We drafted a guy who's actually better. So we're going to go with that guy instead. Got it, Jed? So even though we spent money on this guy, we're going to sit that money on the bench because the guy that we drafted's better. Okay, you cool with that, Jed? Instead, there's got to be this like, no, let's try to justify to Jed that we spent the money correctly. And it's like, enough justifications of mistakes. Just go with the best damn players. I don't know if you can tell my frustration, but I am so frustrated by this. It's hard enough to draft and develop the right players. It's hard enough to sign the right players. It gets even exponentially more difficult if you keep cutting good players just to save face. Every single player on the roster in camp you brought there. So I don't care if you drafted a guy or you signed him. You brought him in, and if the guy you drafted in the 7th round or the guy you signed after the draft is better than the guy you gave a $2 million bonus to, then so freaking be it. That's it. Cut the guy who you paid the money to and apologize to Jed. Tell him you won't do it again. But no more cutting good players to send messages.
A great example of that, Larry, was years ago, Seattle signed Matt Flynn from Green Bay.
And then drafted Russell.
And drafted Russell in the 3rd round, and Russell beat him out and they didn't cut Flynn, but they started Wilson and Flynn was the backup.
Or they traded Flynn, didn't they?
Or whatever they did with Flynn. He wasn't the starter, even though he got starter money. He got big free agent money because he was playing great during when Rodgers was out for a while. He led the Packers to a bunch of wins, played great, and then they picked him up. And I remember that, and I was like, whoa, he beat him out. But that's what you do when you go with the talent. You just go with the best player.
Go with the best. Don't have a bunch of reasons why if you have a really well-developed reasons for why you're not going with the best players, you suck. So stop making up excuses. The guys that you drafted are every bit on the team as much as the guys that you signed. So, I mean, don't cut Sam Womack so you can keep Isaac Yiadom. Womack's younger, faster, better. I could see it. You could see it. Everybody can see it, except for them.
Hey, let me ask you this real quick.
Yeah.
If I know he's going to be gone, like most likely, we've talked about Deebo, but let's say he was on the team, wouldn't he really be wouldn't he be great as a fullback? Like, just let him beef up because he doesn't want to get in great shape. Let him beef up and be this battering ram blocker, and then he can run occasionally and he can go out.
I don't know if he wants to do that, though.
I probably doesn't, but that would be the
I don't think he could stay healthy,
for him.
Danny. I think he would be I think he could be very effective for like 3 weeks. I don't think he's.
It looks like we hit our number. It looks like
we hit it. We hit 80.
We're at 79.
We're at 79. Okay, so let me just read the rest of these and we'll get out of here after I chug. Sal Gonzalez says no more drafting kickers and punters. LOL. Thank you, Sal. Kears says another one for the chug. Thank you, Kears. Space Cowboy says 2 beers, chug.
Space Cowboy was kind of spazzing them.
Space Cowboy whiskey shot chaser. Hey, I don't want to yak. That's the last thing I want to do is yak. Space Cowboy says down the hatch. Space Cowboy says chug it. Space Cowboys invested. Joseph Ernberg, Larry Cook. Ernberg like the ripping. Daryl 49er for life smock. Larry's going to turn into Chase Senior and start getting wasted on his shows. LOL. Chase Senior, by the way, predicted yesterday Eagles to win, so he was all over. Space Cowboy says Kevin has to chug too. Kev, you better go get a glass. It's in the kitchen. B Kirsch 20. Drink up, Larry. Go Niners. Big off season ahead. Thanks for what you guys do with the content all season and off season. Thank you, B. Kirsch. Kev deserves a lot of the credit for a lot of the stuff we do. Rick James says, this is what they deserve. Let's go. Hate the Eagles, but needed this. They weren't gods. Sucked out all season. We back next year. Let's get it, gentlemen. I'm also slizzard right now.
Slizzard. I haven't heard that word.
That is awesome. I love that. Slizzard. L. Kurt says Gatorade shower at 100. Oh, no. We have no Gatorade. Angel Moreno. I rolled my R's for you, Angel. Larry teaching the youth how it's done. He still got it. Thank you. Thank you, Angel. We got this one from Daryl. Daryl says 49er for life smock. Play the Rocky theme next chug. I don't know if we have that in the system. L. Kurtz says, Larry had 100 supers. Eat from pig in a pickle. Ah, there you go. That might be
not
good.
bad of a challenge.
Yeah, seriously. Loco Ant 1624. KS Kyle Shanahan passing on Vic Fangio for Nick Sorensen is diabolical. Yeah, seriously, that's not looking good. Rick James, watching y'all for a while. You guys are the best. Shout out to the young blood. Let's get it this year. There you go. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate you, bro. Andre Hanna in the house. He says, hi, Larry. Seeing how dominant the Eagles' D was tonight, do you think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan were taking notes and rip a page out of the Eagles' defensive roster for their draft plan? I will say this. I could see the Niners signing Milton Williams. He's an interior rusher. You can take him away from the Eagles. They did this with Hargrave. I don't think it would cost as much for Milton Williams. He's a really good pass rusher. He's coming into his own. The mileage is low. Look for that. Look for the Niners to maybe make a play for Milton Williams. Driver 8 says Valentine's Day plans. What's today? That's 5 days away. We got time. Danny, are you and Miss the creator of Lumpia going to create more Lumpia?
Oh, who knows what will happen.
Kev, you got any hot date? You got a hot date for Valentine's Day? Are you going to be leaving us for Valentine's Day?
I will be in San Luis Obispo for Valentine's Day.
Look at this guy.
Eating more lumpia.
I mean, seriously, can you look at this guy? This guy's going to be on the road. I, of course, every day is Valentine's Day in my world. I mean, it's just I'm that romantic of a person. No, I'm just joking.
I just need to study the draft just a little bit longer. I'll be with you in just 10 minutes.
Nothing says I love you like, honey, I got to go study two gappers. Adam C says, met you and Kev at Pig and a Pickle. Cheers from the Humboldt Bros.
I miss the Humboldt Bros. The Humboldt Bros were the guys. They were the men.
Dude, those guys were the bomb. Adam, thanks for coming down to Pig and a Pickle, bro. Appreciate it. Dank says $1.99 super sticker. What the super sticker?
You can see it on the YouTube end. You can't see it on the StreamYard end.
Oh, I got you. Space Cowboy says here's a buck. Thank you. He's got another one here. Says here's a buck. Space Cowboy, here's another one. Here's a buck. Space Cowboy says here's another one. Look at this. Space Cowboy is just unleashing the clip. Here we go. Space Cowboy, Space Cowboy, Space Cowboy, Space Cowboy.
I think he wants to
Cowboy. Space Cowboy. He is after me to drink. Jeremy Purses, longtime listener, first time super chat. Thank you, Jeremy. Appreciate you, bro. Bill Kennedy says, Larry, what is your golf game like? Favorite courses, favorite player do you play in tournaments? First of all, my golf game is very bizarre. It's very bizarre. If you saw me off the tee, you'd be like, dude, you're good. If you saw me putting, you'd be like, dude, you're good. If you saw me chipping, you'd be like, dude, you're good. But if you saw me with my 2-iron, my 3-iron, my 4-iron, my 5-iron, my 6-iron, my 7-iron, or my 8-iron, you'd be like, quit the sport. Stop chunking up the fairway.
Just give him the 9 and the wedge and the putter, right? And the driver.
I can drive, I can putt, and I can chip, and I can't hit my irons to save my life. I chunk them.
I'm the same way, Larry.
I chunk earth. I miss. I top it. If I hit a great drive, I walk proudly to my drive, and then I hit like 5 shots before I'm on the green.
Line drive.
It's awful.
Yeah, just line drives off the chink, 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 chink down the.
I'm worm burnering it, and I'm chucking it here, and I'm dinking it there. So I don't play my irons well at all. I do hit it well off the tee, and I played baseball. I got good bat speed. I got good club head speed. I can drive it. I mean, I can drive it 260, 270
on a par 5. Your game between 250 and 400 yards is the weak point. It's the 100 yards in and the drive, right? You're pretty good 100 yards in.
I can putt and I can chip and I can even get off the beach. I can, if I hit it into the trap, I hit well out of the sand. I've got those shots down. I cannot hit my irons to save my life. As far as favorite courses, well, I'm going to Arizona You know what course I like to play, Danny, is I love to play the Nicholas course in North Phoenix. It's called the Legend at Arrowhead.
Oh, yeah, that's close by where I live.
Is it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
I played there before, and I love it. I love desert golf. So that's one of my favorite spots in the Bay
Pebble?
Area. What's that?
Pebble.
Well, I've never played Pebble.
Oh.
I've never played Pebble. I've played. You know what's a really great course I did play on my honeymoon was we stayed at the plantation course at the Ritz-Carlton in Maui, and the where they play the Mercedes Championship, the plantation course. Dude, it's unbelievable. It's unfreaking believable. It's super lush, and you're gonna lose a bunch of golf balls. They plug in the fairway. It's Hawaii and everything, but it's so amazing. It's such an incredible spot. I would have to say the plantation course at Kapalua is probably my favorite course. I don't watch golf on TV that much, but I'll tell you the one course that is my favorite to watch on TV outside of Augusta is I love watching the Nissan or the Genesis Open from Riviera.
Oh,
Danny,
no,
you ever play Riviera Country Club in
I've never
Southern
been
Cal?
there. I've been there. I know Tiger loves
it's
that course.
Beautiful, beautiful. Tiger loves playing what's
Torrey
it called?
Pines. Torrey
Pines.
Yeah.
Public course in La Jolla.
Yep.
Which is spectacular as well. But I would say my favorite course, plantation course. Batman and favorite player. You know who I love? I love Colin Morikawa.
Yeah.
I mean, his iron play, because I can't hit my irons at all, and he's one of the greatest irons players in the world. And I just marvel at the way he hits his irons. I love Colin Morikawa. I've had some friends who've met him a few times and say he's super cool. He went to Cal. He seems like a really cool guy. Tom Spencer, who does a lot of the golf stuff on CBS, works with Jim Nantz, says that Morikawa's a killer guy. So I like Morikawa. I kind of root for Colin Morikawa. And do I play in tournaments? Hell to the no. They would want me no part of that. Batman 29 says, how confident are you that the Niners go to the Super Bowl next season? 100% confident. No, I don't know. I feel good. I feel good about their chances. I think they got the right quarterback, the right head coach, but they definitely need to improve their offensive line. They have to be able to run the ball. They got to get rid of Juice. They got to get rid of Brendel. No more mascots. I mean, some of these guys that just, you got a Pro Bowl fullback, but you can't run the ball inside the 5-yard line. Something about it that ain't right. You can't have a Pro Bowl fullback and be horrible in short yardage. So, thanks for selling the jackets. Thanks for all the good times. Beat it. Time
jackets.
To go. I mean, tell your wife thanks for the jackets.
She is very talented. I mean, that's no
She's
joke.
very talented.
Aside, she's very talented. But yeah, I mean, let's run the ball a little bit.
Seriously, let's run the ball. I need a fullback, man. I need a serious fullback. And you're not it. Claudaddy Arcade's been watching Monangi clips. Dude decleated blitzing linebacker to protect the quarterback. Chug, LK, chug. Claudaddy, tell me that Kyle Monangi from Rutgers doesn't remind you of Frank Gore. Or maybe even Garrison Hurst. Dude stonewalls people. And Danny, this guy's got the greatest contact balance you've ever seen of a running back. I mean, this guy, seriously, you can knock him left and right. He just keeps running. His contact balance.
Better than Pat Spencer, the lacrosse NBA player?
Pat Spencer's very, very, very talented, but he's no Kyle Monangi, damn it. We're getting close to Chug and Claudaddy. Titus Moeller in the house says D Ford was a backstory. Exactly. Guy had knee problems. He jumped off sides. They were done with him, and the Niners said, here, you can have our second-round pick. That should have been like a fourth-round pick. Instead, they gave him a second. That was a mistake. Bill M says, just in case, we need it. Bill M. Nice. To Big says, about the backstories from those are all on Shanahan's. About the backstories, those are all on Shanahan's stories. There are a few, for sure. Claudaddy says, guess Giants couldn't afford $52 million for Pete Alonso. Would have made $50 million in polar bear beanies alone. See you in Arizona, LK. Claudaddy, we're fired up. We'll be there. Beers on me. We'll throw one back and talk a little bit about the arcades. Claudaddy Arcades is going to be advertising on the show in the month of March, and he's going to be one of the sponsors for the spring training trip. And we're hopefully going to drive lots and lots of people to Claudaddy's brand new arcades, and we're really fired up about it. So, and hopefully we'll get a chance to meet Claudaddy in the desert, and have a beer, take in a game, or just hang out. It'd be awesome. Titus Moeller in the house says Higgins 40 is 4.5 plus, enough to help with speed. He's not a speedster, but he is a big time starting NFL receiver that I think the day he walks in would be the Niners' number one receiver. No doubt. No doubt. Speed's not his game, but he's a great red zone threat. Green Glass Full said, did you guys catch Coach's live stream? I didn't, but I bet you it was pretty good. Tommy Huxley says, my phone's was dreadful. Oh, what? My phone's was dreadful. Nice pick six. Oh, my phone's. Mahomes. He typed fast, probably. Mahomes was dreadful. Nice pick six.
My phone's.
All right, so we're at 82 supers, and we said we would chug for 75. Once again.
Let's get a chug. Let's get a chug going in the chat. Spam chug.
A little music accompaniment. Where is that music accompaniment?
Here, let me get you something. What is this?
Give me something
Champion?
good. Something good.
What's this? I'm Gatorade. I'm dumping you. Gatorade.
We don't have Gatorade. And if I have that much Gatorade, I'm drinking it. I don't want to dump all that Gatorade.
Smoke. All right. No, we're not. Someone said smoke.
Dusty Gold says, frat days with Larry. Yes. Here's to Brother Kruger. And then what happens? Where I can show you. Hold on a second.
Oh, God. What's going on? What's going on here?
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that mug right there.
Oh, my goodness.
This is what we had to chug back in the day. 32-ounce mug. There's all kinds of stuff in here. I got my faithful. Anyway, then that was the chug mug in college right there. Anyway, that's going to do.
I could still remember the cheerleaders when I was playing basketball from high school. The red, go red, white, but whatever the different cheers, and I can remember them all. And the stinking Loma Vista, hats off to thee.
L. Kurtz, smoke the Chiefs packet of 100, Larry. Nice stuff. Kyle McKiernan says, Dan's like, damn, I never should have started shows with him years ago. Are you kidding me? Danny's loving it. Danny, how's your channel doing? Everybody give Danny a like and subscribe. We got like 3,200 people hanging out. Danny works really hard on his baseball, and he also talks a little Warriors. He was on last night after the Warrior game. He goes live, I would say 4 or 5 nights a week, sometimes more. Yeah. He's going to be live after a lot of baseball games this year. Everybody, if you can, give Danny a like and a subscribe. I'm going to pull this off the screen so you can see underneath Danny's channel.
Well, that's my Twitter handle, but
that's your Twitter handle.
It's NorCal Sports Network. We're 246 subs away from 5,000. So
yeah, so help Danny get to 5,000. He's been grinding. He's been working at it. He puts out a lot of great content. As I said, he goes live about 5 nights a week. And it's good dialogue. It's about the Giants. It's about the Niners. It's about Bay Area sports. So definitely give him a like, give him a subscribe. He works at it. He's got a great channel. It's very entertaining stuff. I would say it's probably the most honest Giants conversation you're going to hear out there. And you know me, I like to speak honestly about the Giants, and that's why I love Danny's channel. So give him a like, give him a subscribe. It's NorCal Sports Network, as Kyle McKiernan has typed in here. NorCal Sports Network. Type it in. Give Danny a like and a subscribe. Danny, when do you go live next?
We'll be going live tomorrow night after Warriors Bucks.
Nice.
So,
nice.
Yeah.
How about Jimmy Butler the other night, huh? You look pretty good.
I loved it. I loved watching the game. Totally different feel seeing a guy actually get to the free throw line. And he complements Steph perfectly because his strengths are opposite of Steph's. And I think that is going to pay dividends. Wait till he gets in shape. I mean, right now, he said he was dog tired after last night's game, played 29 minutes. I'm thinking 3 weeks from now, he gets in real good basketball shape down the stretch. He'll be playing 35 minutes, and he's a guy that you'll see play 40 to 45 minutes in the playoffs. He's a guy that'll just keep playing.
Let's do this. Let's just go around the room one last time. Final thoughts on the night. Obviously, Eagles win 40-22. Sirianni gets his ring. Hurts gets his ring. Vic Fangio, I think, was probably the hero of the day. He made Mahomes look really bad. He took away Kansas City's run D. He got it done with his front four. He made plays. His guys made plays in the past game when Mahomes tried to make plays. Guys like Bond and DeJean were jumping balls and jumping routes. I credit Fangio. I credit Howie Roseman. I credit Sirianni. I credit Hurts. Great win for the Eagles. Their fans are emotionally vacant and truly scum. But you know what? The franchise, there's some great people there for sure, and they deserve every bit of the applause and credit they deserve. That this was a great win for the Eagles. And for Mahomes and Reed, you know what? You learned tonight what the Niners learned in 90 at Candlestick Park against the New York Giants, and that is winning 3 in a row is really, really hard to do. Nobody's done it except for the Green Bay Packers. Nobody's ever done it in the Super Bowl era. 3 in a row in the Super Bowl era, start to finish. Niners got close. Patriots got close. Denver got close. Pittsburgh won 2 in a row. The Dolphins, I think, might have won 2 in a row. I mean, people got close, but nobody could get that third one, and nobody's been able to. So, in a way, it kind of tells me that all is right with the world because, the better team won. I really believe that. I think if they played this game 10 times, I think the Eagles probably win 8. I should have stayed with my original thought after the championship game, which was the Eagles were the better team. And instead, I convinced myself to go with the under in the Chiefs, so I wind up losing money on today's game. But oh well, you win some, you lose some. It wasn't a lot of money, and what can you say? But I'm happy for the Eagles. I'm glad the Chiefs didn't win 3 in a row, and I think that the lesson to be learned from this is a really, really good, big, physical, defensive line, offensive line. If the Niners get a total of 12 or 15 picks, or think this is the year that you absolutely invest in the O-line and draft in a much better spot.
Next, I think there's a couple teams on the rise in the AFC. I think Josh Allen is due Super Bowl and have the energy to come back and do it all over again. I think the Chiefs fall back a little next year. Wouldn't even shock me if the Chargers or the Broncos win the division. Chiefs figure a way to get in the playoffs, however they do it. But I just think we're going to see a fallback for 1 year, at least one. That I would think Mahomes is too good. He'll be back in the Super Bowl. He'll have 2 to 4 more probably with the Chiefs. But I think we're going to see a little bit of a pullback for 1 to 2 years.
Got a bunch of people saying the stream's cutting out, Kev. I'm not sure what happened here at the end, but
I'm not sure. I'm trying to check. I think I couldn't. I loaded it on my end on YouTube, and it seems like it's working. So I don't know. Maybe
I'm not seeing it either. But Kev, you go ahead. Final thoughts were right at the end, but your final thought on this one.
Yeah. No. I'm really happy. I'm not the type of guy that's gonna be super vengeful, but it is nice to see the Kansas City Chiefs lose, especially Mahomes and that dynasty. But yeah, I mean, I think this speaks a number of things. One, I think it speaks to how bad the Bills defense is to allow Kansas City to score as many points as they did in that AFC Championship game. And I think it just kind of shows that, what's important in winning. And I think the Eagles kind of have built that. I think, like we said during the show, credit to Howie Roseman. He's built an incredible team. And just the fundamentals of how they go about winning and how they go about their defense, how they go about their offense, I think is kind of like the meta of how to win in the NFL. And they have good talent, and they have a good run game, and they have a good defense. And, not to bring up even more things as the show's ending, but let's just go through these drives for the Chiefs. It started off punt, 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 interception for a touchdown, punt, interception, punt, down, turnover on downs. Then they scored a touchdown, then a fumble. So it's like we're talking about in the fourth quarter, and they had one drive for a touchdown that lasted 5 plays. It wasn't until the middle of the fourth quarter they had a drive over 5 plays. The Eagles dominated the time of possession in this game and just kind of showed the blueprint of how to dominate this team. I think we learned a lot today about just the league, and I'm a happy guy. I mean, the Niners didn't win this season, but this is I can accept this result today.
At the NFL, hopefully the Niners will get back there. I think they got a lesson today, that line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball, to get back there, because Philly's really good. And, Detroit's really good, and Green Bay's really good, and the Rams are really good. And, John Lynch is going to have to really draft well. They got a good draft last year. They're going to have another good draft this year if they want any chance of getting back into the winner's circle in the NFC. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle. Thanks to Better. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles. Thanks to Danny. Thanks to Red. Thanks to Kev. Thanks to all of you guys. Thanks for 85 supers. Really appreciate that. I would chug another beer if I had one in front of me, but I don't, so I'll just bolt for the door. But thanks to everybody. We're back tomorrow at 9 a.m. Streaming with Damon Bruce, recapping this thing tomorrow. So that's tomorrow at 9 a.m. Also tomorrow at 10:50, you can catch me on KMBR with Greg Papa and Greg Silver. I'll be stopping by tomorrow morning at 10:50. And then tomorrow afternoon around 4 o'clock, I believe I'll be streaming with Grant Cohn on his channel. And then tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, I'll be back with you for Niners Nightly, and we'll recap Super Bowl 59 and take phone calls and talk a little bit about Deebo and Purdy and really just let you have your say at 808 KMBR. So that's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks to Kev. Thanks to Danny. Good to see you guys. Outstanding stream. Thanks to the 3,000 people that have been here all night. For Danny and Kev, I'm Larry. Have a great night, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared.